Chapter 281. It was too sweet. It was so sweet that his heart was trembling for her. How could he resist it? He only felt that his body was already opening up for her. He couldn't help but want her, want her, want her, want her. Lin Che really liked the feeling of being kissed by him like this. Her initial resistance had long since collapsed under his intense embrace and kiss. She happily parted her lips and welcomed his passionate lips. She couldn't help but lick every single wrinkle on his lips. After a while, he let go of her. Looking at her lips that were red from being bitten, he smiled slightly. Lin Che placed her head on his chest and listened to his powerful heartbeat. She couldn't help but sigh in her heart. This man was really too strong, too handsome, and too sexy. She had clearly rejected him, but why did she forget herself after being kissed by him? Jiyu Jingze looked at her teasingly and said with a smile, "All right, didn't you just say that there are people here? Why aren't you leaving now?" Lin Che was stunned. She then remembered that she was still lying on his body like an octopus. She quickly jumped down, raised her head, and said to Jiyu Jingze fiercely, "Get lost. You, this is a school. Can't you be more pure?" Jiyu Jingze stroked her earlobe with one hand and looked at her beautiful neck with a burning gaze. "If I wasn't pure, I wouldn't have let you go just now." Lin Che blushed and slapped his hand away. Jiyu Jingze stared at her red and delicate face in surprise. He sighed that his body would become haggard because of her sooner or later. He didn't know if she had really cast a spell on him. Why was it that whenever he saw her, he felt an urge to do it? He turned his eyes away and looked at the surrounding scenery to divert his attention. As he looked, he said, "This school is quite nice." Lin Che said, "Yeah, there's a shopping area behind the school. Why don't we go for a walk? The people who live with us are so annoying. I want to walk before going back." Thinking that she still had to see Xin Xiaoyuan's angry face when she went back, she suggested going out for a walk to change her mood. Jiyu Jingze nodded and walked out with her. Inside, Xin Xiaoyuan had already seen that there seemed to be someone outside. She looked down from above but couldn't see who it was. She only said to another small-time celebrity, "Did you see someone with Lin Che down there just now?" "Is that so? I didn't see anything. I just saw a few people. Could it be Lin Che already has a man?" Xin Xiaoyuan thought about it carefully. Maybe it was true. She couldn't help thinking that she had told Jiyu Jingyu that there wouldn't be anything between her and Jiyu Jingyu. Now that Jiyu Jingyu was attending the fashion week abroad and she was in the country, how could it be Jiyu Jingyu? Xin Xiaoyuan quickly called her assistant. "Bring my phone camera over now." "Mitch, Lin Che, you're good. On one hand, you're involved in a scandal with Jiyu Jingyu, and on the other hand, you have a man behind your back. This time, I'll expose you. Let's see how you can pretend to be pure in the future." On the student street outside, because it was already night, there were not as many people as before. However, there were still people sitting everywhere in the food stalls. Lin Che was wearing a school uniform and a cap, so no one paid attention to her. Jiyu Jingze glanced at him and said, "By the way, Jing Yang wants to invite you to eat together in a few days." "Jing Yang? Why?" Lin Che asked doubtfully. Jiyu Jingze said, "Jing Yang thinks that she likes you very much, so she wants to get to know you better." "Likes me? Really?" Lin Che said in surprise, "I thought we didn't have much contact. Besides, she doesn't look like someone with my personality. She won't like me. Jing Yang's personality is cold and tough, but why doesn't she like you? She thinks that you're very good." Jiyu Jingze also felt strange. He didn't know why everyone around him thought that she was very good. But what was so good about her? She was just silly, stupid, clumsy, and didn't know anything. However, he also thought that she was indeed very good, although he had never thought that she had any commendable merits. Lin Che asked, "Wow, if we eat together, should I pay attention to something? Oh, I feel a little worried. What if she thinks that I'm not good, that I'm uncultured, that I'm stupid?" Lin Che grabbed Jiyu Jingze and asked, "Your sister has such a high education level and is good at studying. Is she good at her job now? Jing Yang has been a top student since she was young. Not only that, but all her friends are also top students. If you put it this way, It's really. She doesn't seem to know anyone who is bad at studying. Oh, she's so good. Although she has always been in school, she has been helping out with some of the GU Corporation's overseas work. She is in charge of some foreign trade negotiations. In the GU Corporation, she has always been a deputy manager. That's so good. Lin Che felt even more worried. GU Jingza nodded. So, her friends are also competing for scholarships in the university, including her good-for-nothing boyfriend. Back then, he was always defeated by Jing Yang. No matter how hard he competed, he couldn't win against Jing Yang. He always came in second place. Phut, second place means good-for-nothing. Lin Che said speechlessly, then what kind of class do you think I, who came in second to last, am? You are a mentally disabled child. You should be pitied. You are different from those who are born with superior intelligence. Get lost. Lin Che stomped his foot again. He would bully her. Lin Che said, that's terrible. I don't know anything. Your sister must think that I'm so stupid. Fine. She won't dislike you just because you're stupid. Lin Che glared at him and said, why is your family so smart? What about Jiu Jingyu? Is he also a straight A student? Jiu Jingza thought for a moment and said, before he quarreled with his family, he was admitted to the University of Chicago, but he didn't go. Lin Che looked at him in admiration. Your family is so smart. Are the people around you also straight A students like Jing Yang? More or less, he said. I mostly come into contact with the senior management of the company. Those who are not senior management usually don't come into contact with me directly. As for the senior management of the GU Corporation, they naturally have higher academic qualifications. Lin Che thought for a moment and suddenly said, then is Miss Mo also. GU Jingza paused for a moment and said, Hua Ling is different. Lin Che nodded in understanding. Of course she was different. His lover was different from the other people around him. It seemed that he really liked Mo Hualing back then. He didn't care about her academic qualifications or anything else. As long as it was her, it was enough. Lin Che's heart sank. After all, he had given his true feelings to Mo Hualing. He was afraid that no one would be able to shake his feelings from now on. After all, no one would be with him for as long as Mo Hualing. Chapter 282. Even herself, she wouldn't stay with him for so long. Lin Che's heart sank at the thought of the possibility of being separated from him in the future. She felt that she was becoming more and more dependent on Jiu Jingza. She couldn't imagine how she would continue her life without him. She shook her head and stopped thinking about it. After all, he was still by her side now, wasn't he? Jiu Jingza also thought of Mo Hualing when he mentioned her. Actually, Mo Hualing wasn't that smart. She got her education from her family and had never worked before. She just didn't fight and was very obedient. She was so obedient that she didn't seem to exist. Jiu Jingza couldn't think of what he had done for her. However, he didn't have to worry about her at all. She was not like the little girl in front of him, who always caused trouble for him or made him angry. However, how could he be possessed by such a terrible girl? If this wasn't self-abuse, then what was? He didn't know what love was. He used to think that it was love with Mo Hualing, but now that he thought about it, it wasn't. Since then, he really didn't think that he understood what love was. But he just wanted to be nice to her now, to protect her naivety and not let her get hurt again. No matter what she had been hurt in the past, he didn't want her to go through it again in the future. Lin Che looked to the side and smelled the stinky tofu. She quickly pulled Jiu Jingza and said, Hey, there's stinky tofu over there. Do you want to try it? Jiu Jingza frowned. He had smelled enough of the smell. I don't want to eat such a smelly thing. He pulled Lin Che. You're not allowed to eat it either. Although it smells bad, it's delicious. Jiu Jingza looked at Lin Che in disgust. Lin Che curled his lips. It's fine if you don't want to eat it. However, looking at Jiu Jingza, Lin Che was really looking forward to seeing his down-to-earth appearance. She couldn't imagine if the serious Jiyu Jingza could still maintain his perfect gentlemanly demeanor when eating something like stinky tofu, and continue to act so classy. But Jiyu Jingza didn't fall for it. She thought that she had never seen Jiyu Jingza in such a sorry state. Probably only when he had an attack. However, at that time, although he was weak, his face was still so handsome that it made people feel indignant. His appearance was still so elegant that it made people feel that he didn't look like a patient at all. He didn't look ugly at all. Jiyu Jingza pulled Lin Che forward. He didn't even want to look at the ugly stinky tofu. However, at this moment, he suddenly felt a flash behind him. Before Lin Che could react, Jiyu Jingza's hand had already reached out. The girl at the back looked thin and weak. She seemed to be a high school student. Jiyu Jingza made a handsome hook. When he spun around, he was as graceful as a butterfly. His movements were smooth and neat. He looked as perfect as a first-rate action movie. The phone in the girl's hand fell into his hand. The girl screamed. She raised her head and saw Jiyu Jingza's dark eyes. She immediately shut her mouth and stared at him blankly. When Jiyu Jingza looked at someone, half of his eyes were dark, making people feel extremely cold and gloomy for a moment. He held his phone. "What are you doing?" The girl hurriedly said, I was just taking a photo." "What's wrong?" Jiyu Jingza said coldly, "Delete the photo." The girl originally thought that it was fine to delete the photo, but she felt embarrassed when he ordered her to do so. She looked at him angrily and said, "I took a photo of myself. Why should I delete it? I'm asking you again. Are you going to delete it or not?" "No, I won't delete it. I didn't take a photo of you." "How do you know that I took a photo of you?" "Humph." Jiyu Jingza looked at the girl indifferently and threw the phone on the ground. The girl was shocked. She immediately screamed, "My phone." However, the phone had already fallen to the ground. The next moment, Jiyu Jingza stepped on it with his leather shoes and the phone screen shattered into pieces. The girl gritted her teeth angrily. "You pay for my phone. Who are you? How dare you do this to me? I'm going to call the police." Jiyu Jingza looked at her coldly and gave a look to the person behind him. Then, he said calmly, "Take her to buy a new phone. Get rid of this phone." "Yes, sir," the bodyguard said and hurried over to deal with the scene. The girl had never seen such a person before. She just stared blankly at him. She was chased far away by the bodyguard, but she still looked back. Lin Che watched from the side and was amazed by Jiyu Jingza's sensitivity. "How did you notice this?" "I noticed it when the phone flashed." As he said that, he looked around and said, "Let's go. It's late. Why don't you go home with me today?" "No, we'll start shooting tomorrow morning," Lin Che said. Jiyu Jingza lowered his head and looked at her deeply. He touched her cheek with his fingers and nodded. "Okay then, let's go back to school." "Okay." The two of them walked back to the school. Seeing that the girl had been discovered after taking a photo, the person behind them was a little afraid. He didn't dare to take a photo up close and could only take a photo from afar. He picked up the photo and couldn't see the man's face clearly. But at least he had done something, so he quickly walked back. When they returned to school, Lin Che said, "Oh no, it's so late. Don't tell me the school gate is already closed." However, they saw that the people inside had already come to open the gate for Jiyu Jingza. They nodded and bowed to Jiyu Jingza to let the two of them in. They even looked at the people behind them fearfully. Lin Che looked up and saw Jiyu Jingza's nonchalant expression. Jiyu Jingza pulled Lin Che into the school. Lin Che was still puzzled. "Are you going to send me in?" "It's okay, I can go in myself." While Lin Che was still talking, Jiyu Jingza grabbed her little hand and lifted her up in his arms. "What are you doing?" "What are you? Let's go. It's so late. We won't go back." "What? You want to stay here? Don't you play by the rules? This is a school." "I know. This is such a pure place. I'll definitely be pure. Don't worry. I don't believe you. I promise I won't touch you, but if you can't take it and pounce on me, I'll satisfy you." "I won't." However, before she could finish her sentence, he hugged her with both hands and his lips were already on hers. Lin Che didn't have any time to think. She felt that this man seemed to be born for kissing. His lips seemed to have a natural attraction. It was such a lingering feeling. How could she reject him with his skills and feelings at the same time? Chapter 283. Shin Xiaoyuan's assistant took the photos and quickly sent them to Shin Xiaoyuan. She looked at the photos and said to her assistant gloomily, "What kind of messy photos are you taking? I can't see the person at all." Inside, she could see a tall man holding her hand intimately. It looked like they were going to stick together. Even so, they were not a couple. How could it be? Shin Xiaoyuan snorted and said, "I don't know where you got your lover from. This time, I'll let you keep pretending. I'll let the whole world know about this news. You can be proud of yourself. You won't have a good ending if you go against me." Lin Che did not return to the room for the whole night. Another small-time actor was still puzzled. Does she really have a boyfriend? But she's too bold. She actually didn't come back for the whole night. Shin Xiaoyuan snorted and said, "Do you think I don't know this kind of inexperienced girl? She's too complacent. She really thinks that just because she's famous, she has a firm foothold in this industry. She doesn't know how to cherish it at all. In this industry, I've been famous for more than 10 years, but I still don't dare to say that I have a firm foothold. She's so bold." Shin Xiaoyuan brought a designer and a stylist, who were busy tidying up for her. It took more than an hour for the makeup to be done. The little actors on the side were envious of her lineup. Shin Xiaoyuan also felt proud, especially that Lin Che, who was too careless. She deserved it for being careless. She was so careless that she gave her a chance, and she deserved it. When she went out, Shin Xiaoyuan saw a few men dressed very seriously in the corridor. They even had pagas hanging from their ears. They looked expressionless as they stood there. Shin Xiaoyuan walked over in a few steps, but she was directly stopped by someone. Only then did she notice that the entire building above had been sealed off. She couldn't help but feel strange. Who was inside? Why was this place sealed off? Moreover, these people all looked like they were not to be trifled with. Below, there was a row of luxury cars outside the school. Needless to say, it had already caused the students to talk about it. But thinking that there were a few big stars living here, and thinking that it might have something to do with them, they only talked about it for a while. And upstairs. When Lin Che woke up and realized that it was already time to gather, he was scared out of his wits. In the evening, they directly stayed upstairs. Jiyu Jingze always had a lot of ideas. They didn't know when they had cleaned up the place. Except for the shabbiness, everything else was good. Lin Che glared at him resentfully. Jiyu Jingze pulled her. "What's the hurry? There's still time. Let's get dressed." Lin Che said, "It's all your fault." Jiyu Jingze smiled and said, "I told you. You were the one who wouldn't let go. Mph, you still dare to speak? I'm not going to bother with you anymore. Didn't you hug me last night?" Jiyu Jingze said. Seeing that Lin Che was in a hurry to go downstairs, Jiyu Jingze stopped her again. "Why are you running so fast? What if you fall down the stairs? You're so clumsy." He frowned and said to her sternly. Lin Che curled his lips. "You only know how to be fierce to me." Mph, Jiyu Jingze pressed his lips against her ear and kissed it lightly. "Sometimes, don't you also like it when I'm fiercer and harder on you?" Lin Che's face was red. She pushed Jiyu Jingze away and quickly ran downstairs. This Jiyu Jingze was really shameless when it came to acting like a hooligan. Seeing that Lin Che had completely left, Jiyu Jingze asked the people to prepare and left on his own. The people outside had already prepared the car and people. Jiyu Jingze looked around and felt that he had been too indulgent recently. In order to spend the night with Lin Che, he actually stayed here for a night. He was originally a very strict person with himself, but he had been indulging himself again and again because of Lin Che. It really shouldn't be. This Lin Che was simply a little demon. Shaking his head, he packed up and quickly left the place. Lin Che jumped down the stairs and finally arrived at the filming location on time. Shin Xiaoyuan looked at her sideways and snorted. "You didn't come back for a night. Where did you go? Lin Che said, Thank you for your concern, Sister Xiaoyuan. I just had some things to do and wasn't here. Xin Xiaoyuan looked at Lin Che, who seemed to have come out from inside. Her eyes turned and she was stunned. She suddenly thought, could it be that the people who sealed off the building were because of Lin Che? That couldn't be. Those people looked very powerful. To be able to enter this school and easily seal off an entire floor, it could be seen that they were not people to be trifled with. How could a little girl like Lin Che know such a person? She had been around for so long, but she had never seen this kind of people. This was the first time she had seen such a big lineup. Shaking her head, she didn't think about it anymore. She just glared at Lin Che again. When she found a chance, she would spread the news about Lin Che. The filming only ended after a week. These days, Jiyu Jingze finally went to work and didn't bother Lin Che again. At the end of the day, the film crew set up an event. It was a school party. The students and a few celebrities came to the party. Yang Lingxin and Yu Minmin brought other employees to help Lin Che prepare. From afar, they saw Xin Xiaoyuan's huge lineup. Yang Lingxin said, Xin Xiaoyuan brought a lot of people. Yu Minmin said, she is a celebrity after all. Of course she has a big lineup. Her status in the entertainment industry is second only to Mu Feiran and the other super A-listers, so this is normal. Yang Lingxin heard this and nodded in understanding. She looked over there with a little envy. Xin Xiaoyuan was served in the middle. She didn't have to do anything, and the assistant did everything for her. Just then, the assistant ran in hurriedly and said to Xin Xiaoyuan, I heard that the gown the company brought for Lin Che seems to be red. Xin Xiaoyuan snorted and said to the assistant, Then, I want that red gown. The assistant said in surprise, Then what if it clashes with Lin Che's color? Xin Xiaoyuan narrowed her eyes and said to the assistant, Do you know where his gown is? About this, I know. They were all transported by the company's car. Go over there now and get the gown. After Lin Che was fully prepared, he saw Xin Xiaoyuan, dressed in bright red, walking into the venue with great momentum. Lin Che couldn't help but be stunned. He turned around and said to Yu Minmin, I think my gown is also red, right? Yu Minmin was stunned. She looked inside and frowned. Is this Xin Xiaoyuan doing this on purpose? However, just then, they heard Yang Lingxin run out from inside, shouting, Sister Che, bad news, our gown. Chapter 284. In front, the director was already rushing them. Lin Che is already on stage. Why haven't you changed yet? Oh, director, I'll be right back, Lin Che replied. He looked down at the gown that Yang Lingxin had brought. It had been cut open and was in tatters. Yu Minmin grabbed the gown. How did it end up like this? Yang Lingxin said, I don't know. I saw it when I got there. When I got it, the box was still closed and I didn't look inside. When I opened it, I realized that it was damaged. Yu Minmin gritted her teeth. Someone must have done something behind the scenes. I'll get someone to bring us new gowns. Lin Che listened. The music had already started. It looked like there was no time to get new gowns. Lin Che said, There's no time. It's about to start. Yang Lingxin was speechless. Then what should we do, Sister Che? I used to think that things like clothes being destroyed in the entertainment industry were fake. I didn't expect, Yu Minmin said, Yeah, what should we do now? Lin Che looked at the gown. After a while, he said, Forget it, I'll see if I can change it. Change it? How? Lin Che tore open the gown and put it on. Seeing this, Yu Minmin hurried over to help her pull up her clothes. She saw that there were holes everywhere, and only a few pieces were still connected. After Lin Che put it on, a large area of her back was exposed, and her underwear was exposed. Lin Che asked for 2 pins in the exposed part of the front and directly pinned it up. After a few tries, she could finally wear it. Yang Lingxin looked at him in a daze. Then, she heard the director call out, Lin Che, what are you doing? Hurry up, we're just waiting for you. I'm coming, director. Lin Che walked towards them. The director saw a flash of red and was stunned for a moment. Lin Che, your gown, it's okay, I changed it. With that, Lin Che walked in his high heels. At the front desk, Shin Xiaoyuan stood tall. When she saw that there was no one around her, she snorted coldly. A smug smile slowly appeared on her face. Li Junyi said, "What's going on? Why isn't Lin Che here yet? If she doesn't want to come, then so be it. Could it be that we still need her on this stage?" Shin Xiaoyuan smiled and looked at the reporter. When she was being interviewed, her attitude was much better. "Sister Xiaoyuan, why isn't Lin Che here? I don't know about this. Maybe he's a young man. He often lazes in bed or something. Maybe he didn't pay attention to the time," Shin Xiaoyuan said. The reporter quickly asked, "Was Lin Che often late for the previous shows?" "Yeah, she's just used to being lazy," Shin Xiaoyuan said. The reporter asked again, "There have been rumors these days that the two of them are filming the same movie and are from the same company, but they didn't communicate on set. Could it be that they don't get along? Haha, whether we get along or not depends on whether we have something in common. To be honest, I've been in this circle for so long, but I only have a few friends. I don't really like to socialize with other people. We haven't reached the point where we don't get along, we just don't talk much," Shin Xiaoyuan said haughtily, looking like a big shot. Her meaning was very obvious. She was a big shot. Why would she talk to these newcomers? Her social circle in the circle only had a few friends of equal status. The reporter was about to speak, but he heard someone exclaim from behind, "Lin Che has come in." The reporters turned their heads one after another. They only saw Lin Che's red gown. There were many holes on it, and the white and tender skin inside was faintly discernible. The short skirt matched her long legs, making her look very enchanting. When she turned around, a large area of her back was exposed, making her look even more alluring. The clothes didn't look right. However, when worn on her body, it looked extremely fitting. Her good figure was directly revealed, making people feel that she was very special. The lights and camera shot over at the same time. Lin Che raised her head and smiled at the person. Her wild outfit, coupled with the purity in her eyes, made her look even more unique. Shin Xiaoyuan, who was also wearing a red gown, suddenly looked dull. Although she was dressed exquisitely, other than that, there was no other good point about her. At most, she could be said to be experienced and remarkable, but there was nothing special about her. Shin Xiaoyuan gritted her teeth and stared in Lin Che's direction. Looking at her alluring appearance, she could only curse in her heart. Shameless little bitch, how dare she wear this kind of clothes outside? Then, she glared at her own assistant. How did she cut clothes? Or did she go to do fashion design? How could she still look so good after finishing it? The assistant felt very innocent. She didn't want to. At that time, it was already a pile of tattered clothes. Who knew that when Lin Che wore it, it would still look so good? It could only be said that good-looking people looked good in anything. Those who weren't good-looking looked bad in anything. Lin Che stood there and glanced at Shin Xiaoyuan. She walked over slowly and turned to Shin Xiaoyuan and said, "Thank you, Sister Xiaoyuan, for waiting for me. What's wrong? Continue the interview." Shin Xiaoyuan glared at her. Actually, she wasn't in the mood to interview her. However, at this moment, she could only grit her teeth and smile. "You're welcome. As a senior, it's only right for me to wait for a newcomer." Today was the last day of the reality show. Everyone had finished filming the last part of the show and were finally leaving. Lin Che had a good relationship with the staff. After greeting them one by one, he went back. The next day, the news of Lin Che and Shin Xiaoyuan not getting along was the headline of the news. And the reporter also focused on the clothes that Lin Che wore to participate in the event that night. They were beautiful, fashionable, and very designed. However, the reporter also pointed out that the clothes seemed to be damaged. It looked like the edges were not neatly trimmed. Immediately, the reporter guessed. Could it be that the clothes had been damaged by someone? Who was it? Looking at the two of them who didn't get along, the reporter only said a little and the netizens immediately thought of a big show. Lin Che's clothes were damaged by Shin Xiaoyuan. Lin Che had no choice but to change his clothes and go on stage. This was also why Lin Che went on stage so late. The netizens immediately rushed to Xin Xiaoyuan's Weibo and started scolding her. They said that Xin Xiaoyuan was shameless and that Xin Xiaoyuan was not a good person. She deliberately suppressed the younger generation and had no tolerance at all. At the same time, the netizens praised Lin Che's impromptu clothes. They praised Lin Che to the heavens. Lin Che didn't expect that his anger at that time would cause such a big uproar on the internet. Yu Minmin looked at the report and said to Lin Che with a smile, "The netizens are not fake. They can guess so many things. It can be seen that the netizens are not easily fooled." Xin Xiaoyuan was furious. She threw the newspaper and gritted her teeth. This Lin Che, I was wondering why she was wearing that clothes. She must have dressed like that on purpose so that the netizens could see it and scold me together. This Lin Che is too scheming. I have underestimated her. Chapter 285. Lin Che scanned through the comments online. He didn't expect the commotion to continue for a few days. Yu Minmin smiled and said, "This time, your movie is popular again." Lin Che said, "I didn't expect them to argue to this extent and even attack Xin Xiaoyuan. She caused it herself. Who told her to do these things that hurt others without benefiting herself?" Lin Che said, "She won't think that I did it on purpose and want to take revenge on me, right? Even so, you can't do anything about it, can you? Anyway, she hates you. No matter what you do, right or wrong, she will hate you and make trouble for you. So, why do you care whether she takes revenge or not?" Ji Yuning said. Lin Che thought about it and agreed. "That's true. I'm just worried that I'll become a burden and always cause trouble." "How can that be? You're already good enough. It's just that the more you stand at the top, the easier it is for you to become a target. Sometimes, even if you don't cause trouble, things will cause trouble for you. There's nothing you can do about it." "All right then," Lin Che said, "I just didn't expect that because of the disagreement, I would have a few more headlines. Yeah, the recent headlines are all about you." After Xin Xiaoyuan's Weibo was scolded badly, she was still unrepentant and kept posting on Weibo. She said that she was innocent and that Lin Che was a junior. She didn't have the mood to argue with a junior newcomer. She even said that Lin Che was clearly trying to create hype and dragged her along. In comparison, Lin Che's side was much cleaner. He only occasionally posted what he was doing, eating, or playing. It made many people feel that Lin Che was so quiet, but the other side was like a tigress, clinging onto Lin Che and refusing to let him go. She even had the nerve to say that Lin Che was trying to create hype when she was the one who wanted to create hype. Yu Minmin looked at the report and shook her head. "I'm afraid that Xin Xiaoyuan is the one who can't take it anymore. Her team must be furious to see her post these." Yang Lingxin said, "She deserves to be scolded. It's disgusting to treat Sister Che like that." Yu Minmin said, "This industry is like this. You'll know when you see it more. There are all kinds of people. It's very messy." Yang Lingxin said, "I'm not as pretty as Sister Che to be an actress. It's impossible for me to enter this industry. I can only watch you guys fight every day." Hearing Yang Lingxin's words, Lin Che raised his head and smiled. "Little Xin, you're actually quite good looking. You're not any worse than an average actor when you dress up." She smiled as she tidied up Yang Lingxin's hair and said to Yu Minmin, "Right, Sister Minmin? Look, isn't she pretty?" Yes, it's beautiful." Yu Minmin knew that Lin Che was just saying it. How could he really ask Yang Lingxin to be an actress? Although Yang Lingxin wasn't ugly, entering the entertainment industry wasn't determined by one's looks. Talent was also required. Some people looked like celebrities, while others didn't. There was nothing that could be done about it. Yang Lingxin was pretty, but she looked like a passerby. Yu Minmin had been a manager for a long time, so he could tell right away. Hearing this, Yang Lingxin smiled shyly and said, "Don't make fun of me." Just then, Jiyu Jingze suddenly called. He said that he had an appointment with Jiyu Jingyan to have dinner together. Lin Che jumped up in shock. "No way, why didn't you tell me earlier? Should I go over now?" Yeah, I've already made an appointment. Come over in a while. Lin Che was speechless. He quickly hung up, feeling extremely nervous. Lin Che grabbed young Lingxin and asked, "What do you think I should wear? I can't wear something too serious, or I can't wear something too ordinary, or I'll look too lazy." Young Lingxin said, "Sister Che, you look good in anything. Don't be so conflicted." Lin Che smiled at her. "You're such a sweet talker." She asked Yu Minmin and Young Lingxin to go back to the Jiyu family to choose. Young Lingxin had never been to the Jiyu family's house before. She was surprised when she reached the entrance. Looking at the security guards at the entrance, she gaped and couldn't close her mouth for a long time. "I thought the Jiyu family's house would be like the villa that Jiyu Jingza gave to Grandma, but," she widened her eyes as she looked around and said in disbelief, "the Jiyu family's house is so big." Yu Minmin said, "Don't be too surprised. I thought the same when I first came, but when I went in, I realized. What's surprising is the inside. Jiyu Jingza is indeed Jiyu Jingza. You can't think of anything, but there's nothing he can't do." Lin Che said, "It's because Jiyu Jingza is really busy and needs a lot of people. That's why he made it so big." Young Lingxin looked around. Indeed, she hadn't expected Jiyu Jingza's house to be so big. She said, "Sister Che, do you usually stay here?" "Yeah." Young Lingxin looked around. Her gaze swept past the luxurious decorations in the room and the servants walking by. The servants were bowing their heads to Lin Che and saying respectfully, "Madam, you're back." "Hello, madam." "Madam, you brought your friends over as guests." Lin Che asked the servants to prepare water for Young Lingxin and Yu Minmin. Young Lingxin was still looking around. Looking at Lin Che's back, she secretly bit her lip. Some people could only be servants, while others could live in a big house and be addressed respectfully as madam. There was no fairness in this world. It all depended on who was lucky. Lin Che opened the wardrobe door after entering. When he turned around, he saw Young Lingxin looking up at the clothes in the wardrobe with sparkling eyes. Girls always had a natural liking for things like clothes and jewelry. Once they saw it, they couldn't help liking it. Which girl didn't want to be beautiful? Some people might say that they didn't like it, but that was because they couldn't afford to. Young Lingxin looked at the clothes and said, "Sister Che, you have so many clothes." Lin Che said, "They bought all these. I usually only wear a few sets. But I'm going to eat with Jingyan today, so it's better to choose something more formal." Lin Che couldn't help but think of what Mo Hualing had said. As Mrs. Jiyu, her dressing was also for Jiyu Jingza's sake. She didn't want Jiyu Jingza to be laughed at because of her. Jiyu Jingza was such a perfect person. The biggest flaw in his perfect life was probably her. Come to think of it, Jiyu Jingza had never cared about such things. She was really grateful that Jiyu Jingza was such a good person. Seeing that Young Lingxin kept looking at him, Lin Che looked down at her clothes. Actually, she was very clean, but her clothes were a little old. Lin Che said, "If you see something you like later, I'll give it to you, okay?" Hearing this, Young Lingxin quickly came back to her senses. No, Sister Che, I'm just looking. How can I wear such expensive clothes? These clothes look very expensive." Lin Che said, "I don't know if they're expensive, but I don't usually wear many clothes. These should be new. You can take them and help me wear them." Young Lingxin said embarrassedly, "How can I do that?" Lin Che said, "Anyway, if you see something that suits you, you can try it on. It's useless to leave it here." Chapter 286. Young Lingxin's gaze swept across the room. Behind her, Yu Minmin pulled out a light yellow gown and said, "I think this looks good. It's very elegant and not too eye-catching. It should be a good choice for going out to meet family." Lin Che looked at it and thought it looked good too. He quickly pulled it out and tried it on. She put on the light yellow dress and looked a lot brighter. Yu Minmin smiled from behind and said, "Actually, you look good in anything, especially with your fair skin." Young Lingxin also smiled and looked at her. "That's right, Sister Che. You're really pretty. No wonder President Jiyu dotes on you so much." Yu Minmin said, President Jiyu dotes on Lin Che because they are husband and wife. Moreover, President Jiyu really likes her. What does it have to do with her beauty? Yang Lingxin hurriedly said, I'm sorry, Sister Che. I didn't mean it that way. Lin Che smiled. Don't be so serious. I was just joking. After choosing their clothes, it was almost time. The three of them left together. When they were outside, Lin Che asked someone to send the two of them back first. He had to take a car to the place they had agreed on. Yang Lingxin and Yu Minmin left in the bodyguard's car. She turned back and looked at the house that was getting further and further away. After a long while, she finally looked away. In the restaurant, Jiyu Jingze arrived first and saw that Jiyu Jingyan was already sitting there. However, there was someone else beside her. It wasn't her boyfriend, Liu Beichen, but a girl who looked a little familiar. Jiyu Jingze glanced at the girl and called out, Jingyan. Jiyu Jingyan stood up and said, Second brother, you're early. Where's sister-in-law? Not yet. Jiyu Jingze was a man of few words. He just sat down and replied. The girl beside Jiyu Jingyan stared at Jiyu Jingze for a while before saying, Ah, Jingze, don't you recognize me? You didn't even greet me when you saw me. Jiyu Jingze raised his head and looked at her. You are, the girl said unhappily, you really forgot about me. I used to go to your house to play when I was young. Jiyu Jingyan smiled and said, Second brother, she's Lu Chuxia, Beichen's sister. Have you forgotten? Jiyu Jingze suddenly remembered. It's you. Yeah, I thought you really forgot about me. Lu Chuxia smiled at Jiyu Jingze, her eyes sparkling. Knowing that it was her, Jiyu Jingze was no longer as cold as he looked at her. He smiled and said, How could I forget you? After all, you're my savior. Hearing this, she laughed. It's good that you know. Jiyu Jingyan suddenly remembered something. Oh yeah, I remember when we went to the Arctic Ocean together. We were ambushed by other countries. It was really dangerous. It was Chuxia who pushed you into the water. That's why you weren't killed. Jiyu Jingze smiled and nodded, that's right. Jiyu Jingyan said, after that, the security measures were much tighter. You didn't have as much freedom as before. But it was really dangerous. It's better for you to take more people with you. Jiyu Jingze said, thank you. But I was still young then. Now that you've grown up, I didn't recognize you. I'm really sorry. Yeah, we haven't seen each other for a few years. Not only have I changed, but you've changed too. I was just talking to Jingyan about you. Now, I didn't expect you to marry someone other than Mo Hualing. Her gaze lingered on his face and she looked at him deeply. Jiyu Jingze said, the world is unpredictable. But I also heard from Jingyan that you were forced to get married by your families. Jiyu Jingze calmly picked up his tea and took a sip. He glanced at Jiyu Jingyan. Jingyan quickly said, she's my future sister-in-law. I have to please her. Lu Chuxia smiled and said, yeah, we'll be a family in the future. Jiyu Jingze stood up. I'll go and see if Lin Che is here. The two watched Jiyu Jingze leave. Lu Chuxia said, it seems like your second brother doesn't want to see me. Jiyu Jingyan said, how can that be? My second brother has always been like this. It's not like you don't know. I know, but your sister-in-law seems to be an actress. She looked at Jiyu Jingyan and asked. Jiyu Jingyan said, yeah, she's an actress. What's wrong? Lu Chuxia said, nothing. I just didn't expect your family to agree to their marriage. My family doesn't care about that. Plus, it's a special case for Ge. Sister-in-law is also a nice person. We all like her. After she came, the house became much livelier. Jiyu Jingyan really liked Lin Che, so she didn't hold back on her praises. What's more, it's a special case for Ge. I only remember that Jiyu Jingze was only with Mo Hualing before. I thought that he was such a loyal person that he would never let go of Mo Hualing. I didn't expect him to marry someone else. It seems like he doesn't really love Mo Hualing that much. What are you trying to say? Jiyu Jingyan looked at her and asked. Lu Chuxia said, what if I say that I want to pursue your second brother? Forget it. Jiyu Jingyan almost spat. My second brother is so old-fashioned. You want to pursue him? Are you crazy? Besides, he's already married. They don't really love each other. They might get divorced one day. Love is free. I've liked your second brother for a long time, but I always thought that I wouldn't have a chance. Now that he has broken up with Mo Hualing, why wouldn't he choose me? After all, we're a good match. Plus, we know each other. It's better than a stranger that we haven't known for long. Don't you think so? Jiyu Jingyan shook her head. Whatever you say. But I don't think you can get him. How would you know? You and my brother never thought that you could get together. But now, you're getting married. Jiyu Jingyan paused. Her expression was stiff. She didn't smile for a long time. Lu Chuxia said, "All right, my future sister-in-law. You're getting married soon. My brother's previous girlfriend is in the past. Don't worry about it anymore." Jiyu Jingyan raised her head and looked at Lu Chuxia. Some people will never be in the past. Maybe you don't understand this now, but maybe you will understand in the future. Lu Chuxia said, "Where there's a will, there's a way. Moreover, I'm competing fairly." She looked at the time. It's getting late. I'll leave first. I won't keep you from eating. Jiyu Jingyan looked at Lu Chuxia. Actually, she could understand that people like her were overconfident. Perhaps it was because she had never lost anything since she was young, but being too confident and stubborn wasn't a good thing. However, her advice to Lu Chuxia was probably useless. As someone who had been through it, she understood that Lu Chuxia always thought she was invincible if she had never hit a wall. She said, "If you want to pursue my second brother, don't you want to look at my little sister-in-law first? It's okay. What happens to her has nothing to do with me. I care about your second brother, not her." With that, she picked up her bag and turned to leave. Chapter 287. Lu Chuxia naturally liked Jiyu Jingzi. She also felt that there was nothing that Jiyu Jingzi didn't like about her. Her thoughts were very simple. She liked him and wanted to pursue him. She had never tried before because of Mo Hualing. However, if he could even like Mo Hualing, why couldn't he like her? Actually, what was so hard to understand about liking him? Who wouldn't like Jiyu Jingzi? It was just that some people didn't dare to like him. Lin Che was dressed in light yellow and soon arrived. When she got out of the car, she saw that it was a high-class clubhouse that was already guarded. The car stopped and the people inside saw that it was Jiyu Jingzi's people, so they naturally let them in respectfully. The people around just looked at this scene and knew that it wasn't a place that ordinary people could enter. They saw a bunch of security guards outside talking to each other through walkie-talkies. Ordinary people weren't allowed to get close, so they also knew that it wasn't a place that ordinary people could enter. Jiyu Jingzi came to pick Lin Che up. Seeing that Lin Che was so solemn, Jiyu Jingzi said, "Jingyan isn't that scary, right?" Lin Che said, "She's not scary, but she should show that she takes it seriously. But this place looks so expensive. It's too grand to eat here." Jiyu Jingzi looked at her. "This is Jingyan's property." The corner of Lin Che's mouth twitched. Oh. Jiyu Jingyan got along quite well with her. Although Jiyu Jingyan seemed to be a difficult person to get along with, it was probably because of Lin Che's first impression. Actually, Jiyu Jingyan was a very reasonable person who liked to laugh. After the three of them finished eating, Jiyu Jingyan smiled as she sent her off. "Sister-in-law, come and play with me when you're bored. This time, I might not leave for a while after coming back." "Really? Oh, right. You're going to prepare for the wedding, right?" "Ah. That's right." Jiyu Jingyan smiled and didn't say anything else. Jiyu Jingzi held Lin Che's hand and led her away from this place. In the car, Lin Che asked Jiyu Jingzi curiously, "Why do I feel like she's not too happy about getting married?" "How can that be?" "I don't think so," Jiyu Jingzi said. Lin Che said, "Of course not. What kind of brother are you? You don't even know if she's angry or happy. Do you think everyone is like you, with so much time to care about other people's business?" Jiyu Jingzi didn't care much about Jiyu Jingyan's life. Actually, Jiyu Jingzi was a careless person who didn't like to care about other people's affairs. Lin Che said, Ha, you've always been a busybody. Jiyu Jingzi paused. He felt strange. He couldn't let go of her at all. He couldn't ignore her, and he couldn't ignore her no matter what. Didn't I say that because you're retarded, I have to care more about you, he said, rubbing her head. Get lost. Lin Che glared at him. But Jing Yang really doesn't seem to like getting married. Could it be that she and her boyfriend were forced to get married like us? Of course not. Jiyu Jingzi said, they've known each other since high school, but I remember that they weren't a couple at that time. What's that? Back then, Jing Yang was the most popular girl in the school, and he was the second. They were rivals, but they were also friends. Their brotherhood was more important than anything else. Most importantly, Jing Yang's best friend was dating Liu Beichen. Ah! Then how did they end up together? How would I know? Maybe something happened abroad. Lin Che nodded, confused. Jiyu Jingzi said, you should care more about yourself. Don't bother about other people. Lin Che said, people are curious. It's enough for you to be curious about me. Jiyu Jingzi felt that she didn't pay enough attention to him. She was so nice to others, but she was careless with him. Lin Che said, how am I curious about you? Like how I am curious about Jingyu. Jiyu Jingyu is different. He's an A-lister in the industry. Of course I'm curious about him. Jiyu Jingzi's face tensed up. But Lin Che said, besides, you're my husband. Why should I be curious about you? Which part of your body haven't I seen? Hearing this, Jiyu Jingzi's momentary gloom disappeared in an instant. Because of what she said, he was a little excited. He put his arm around her shoulder and looked at the little woman with a faint smile. Lin Che looked up and saw his perfect smile. She was infatuated again. Her husband was the type that she could never get tired of looking at. This man was hers. Every time she saw him, she would feel an inexplicable sense of pride. She really didn't know what kind of virtue she had accumulated in her life to be able to be by Jiyu Jingzi's side and become his wife. The next day, Lin Che rushed to shoot the new film with Jiyu Jingyu. As soon as he arrived at the set, the director and the other actors came to greet him. From the outside, they could see that there were many fans surrounding the set, calling out Jiyu Jingyu's name. Even though they knew that they wouldn't be able to see him, they still waited outside. Yang Lingxin followed behind Lin Che. Seeing this scene, she couldn't help but ask, Sister Che, why is Jiyu Jingyu so popular? Because he's handsome, she said. But, for such a handsome person to have such a good relationship with you, Sister Che, it means that you're a good person. Don't listen to the gossip outside. Our relationship isn't that unimaginable. How can that be? They all say that Jiyu Jingyu doesn't like to keep in touch with others. Every time he sees you, he'll talk to you, and is especially supportive of you. At this moment, people around the set came to greet them. News about Lin Che had been everywhere recently. He was in the headlines every day. Whenever there was news, it would be spread. It could be said to be a hot topic. So, when everyone saw Lin Che, they naturally came to greet him. Their gazes fell on her face, probing, curious, and jealous. The director and the others were also very polite to her. They invited her in to rest and do her makeup. As expected, Jiyu Jingyu came the moment Lin Che went in. He came in and asked where Lin Che was. The director said that she was inside, so he went in without saying a word. Inside, Lin Che's assistants heard the noise and quickly cleaned themselves up. Jiyu Jingyu is here. God, where's my lipstick? It's too late. Jiyu Jingyu came in long ago. Yang Lingxin looked at them and said, that's enough. Jiyu Jingyu is here to see Sister Che. Why is she looking at you guys? Little Dao said, aren't we basking in Jiyu Jingyu's light and getting close to her? Look, who isn't envious of us? How is it possible for them to be so close to Jiyu Jingyu? Moreover, Jiyu Jingyu is so handsome. Although we know it's impossible, it's fine to look forward to it. Chapter 288. Jiyu Jingyu came in and pulled out a chair. He looked at Lin Che and said, wow, you've put on weight recently. Are you living a good life? Lin Che felt a little fearful of Jiyu Jingyu's gaze when he came in. She really wanted him to stay away from her, lest he kept sizing her up. Jiyu Jingyu said, "Great, let's go for dinner tonight." Lin Che was speechless. "No way, you promised me so many times that you would treat me to dinner, but you never did." "Lin Che, why? Is it so hard to treat me to dinner?" Okay. Let's eat together." "I didn't say I wouldn't eat." "Let's just eat," Lin Che said helplessly. Jiyu Jingyu snapped his fingers and said to her, "I'll look for you after filming. Do your makeup first. Today's your first day. Remember to work hard." "Got it, Senior Jingyu. If you know I'm your senior, then be more respectful to me. Don't look at me with disdain, okay?" As he said that, he reached out to pinch her cheek. Lin Che was speechless. These men from the Jiyu family, why did they love to touch her face every day just because they were tall and strong? After Jiyu Jingyu said that, he left in a hurry. Little Dao was infatuated. "Wow, Jiyu Jingyu is too handsome. I can't even see his pores at such a close distance. How does he maintain his face? It's probably inherited from the Jiyu family. Look at Mr. President, he's always so handsome." Young Lingshin looked at Little Dao and the others and said, "Alright, I told you guys to put on makeup. Jiyu Jingyu didn't even look at you guys. He came in only to look for Sister Che." Little Dao immediately held Lin Che's hand and said, "Sister Che, you're too enviable. I also want to eat with Senior Jingyu." But Little Xiao said, "Alright, Senior Jingyu won't eat with you. He only eats with our Sister Che." "Do you think you're Sister Che?" Lin Che had goosebumps all over his body from what they were saying. "Alright, stop talking nonsense. If the reporters hear it, there will be another scandal. I want to be an actress, not a topic queen, okay?" Recently, the newspapers had started to say that she was the queen of topics. Ever since she started the scandal with Jiyu Jingyu, every time there was a topic, it would be on the front page. This time, it was the same with Xin Xiaoyuan. The shooting went very smoothly in the morning. As Jiyu Jingyu and Jiyu Jingyu were old acquaintances, the two of them had a tacit understanding of each other. As soon as they got on stage, they had to act together, but there were still a lot of ings. The director praised them and said, "Everyone benefits from working with such a good actor. Thank you for your hard work." Jiyu Jingyu also looked at Lin Che and said, "You've improved a lot recently." "Is that so? Thank you for your praise, Senior Jingyu. Don't say such nice words. Let's go eat." "Oh, okay." The two of them packed up and walked out in a grandiose manner. Following Jiyu Jingyu, there was a large group of staff behind them. Wherever they went, they attracted the attention of the people around them. Behind them, Little Dao and Little Xiao were shouting excitedly, as if they were about to lose control of their bodies. "Look, they're all looking at us." "Of course. Look at how close Sister Che is to Jingyu. They're inseparable. Who wouldn't be envious?" Young Lingshin looked at them from behind and secretly pursed her lips. Her eyes were fixed on Lin Che and Jiyu Jingyu's eye-catching silhouettes, and she didn't come back to her senses for a long time. In the office, Jiyu Jingza sat on the big office chair, his gaze indifferently looking at the pile of documents in front of him. Qin Hao knocked on the door and came in. He reported to Jiyu Jingza, "Sir, Miss Lu is here to visit." Jiyu Jingza looked up and paused for a moment. "Lu Chuxia?" "That's right." After a moment of silence, Jiyu Jingza nodded and said, "Please come in." When Lu Chuxia entered the door, she said with a smile, "Your Jiyu Corporation is really strict. There are a few checkpoints to enter." Jiyu Jingza looked at Lu Chuxia and said, "What's the matter? I'll treat you to a meal." She smiled as she looked at Jiyu Jingza's outfit. He was sitting at the back and had a strong aura. She couldn't help but smile and say, "Or President Jiyu can treat me to a meal. You haven't said when you're going to repay me for saving your life." Jiyu Jingza smiled and patted the table. "Sure, I'll treat you to a meal." The place Jiyu Jingza chose to treat Lu Chuxia was naturally more grand. During the meal, Lu Chuxia kept talking, and Jiyu Jingza only casually replied. Lu Chuxia said, "I didn't expect you to break up with Mo Hualing." Jiyu Jingza said, Yeah, I didn't expect it either. Then. Jiyu Jingzi, do you think I have a chance to replace Mo Hualing and continue with you? Lu Chuxia looked at him confidently. Jiyu Jingzi looked at her. Is it really okay for you to talk about this with a married man? Lu Chuxia said, so what if he's married? What kind of society is this? If you don't like someone, you can break up. Love is everything. Jiyu Jingzi said, what if I say I don't have a chance? Ah. Lu Chuxia said, isn't it a little too hasty to reject me so quickly? I can give you some time to think about it. Jiyu Jingzi picked up a napkin from the side and wiped the corner of his mouth. Then, he threw it aside and said, no, thank you for your kindness, but I appreciate it. I'm not suitable for you. He got up and said to her, I'm still busy at the company. You can do whatever you want. I'll leave first. Lu Chuxia looked at him unwillingly. She bit her lip and said to his back, I'll ask you again next time. Jingzi, we're very suitable for you. You can totally consider it. Lu Chuxia thought that her current wife was just an actress. Other than being good at acting, she probably didn't have any other strengths. A servant came over and looked at Lu Chuxia. Miss, it's time to go back. She harumphed. Do you know that Lin Che? Ah, Lin Che. I know him, the servant said. He's a very popular actor recently. Miss, do you want to see him? Very popular? But no matter how popular he is, he's just an actress. She harumphed and said, there's no need. I don't like actors and have no interest in them. They all look the same, so I don't want to see him. But if you want to develop a relationship with Mr. Jiyu, can't you at least know yourself and the enemy? There's no need for me to follow him, she said as she stood up calmly. The servant at the side smiled and said, that's true. Miss, how could Lin Che compare to your status? Anyone with a discerning eye would know which one they should choose when they see the two of them standing together. Chapter 289. Jiyu Jingzi didn't care about Lu Chuxia's words. He got into the car before leaving. He thought about Lu Chuxia's performance just now. Even though he had always been the target of infatuated gazes, he hadn't received many confessions. It was probably because many people were still afraid of his status, or like Lu Chuxia, they wanted to maintain their poise. There was probably only one person who didn't give him a chance to refuse when they came close to him. That person was Lin Che. If she hadn't shamelessly drugged him back then, perhaps she wouldn't have been able to get close to him at all. There was probably no one in this world who was more shameless than Lin Che. To her, elegance and whatnot didn't exist at all. She didn't care about such things at all. When she arrived at the Jiyu family, she had even thrown herself at him. It was almost as if she was sticking to him, making it impossible for him to resist. Thinking about Lin Che, Jiyu Jingzi shook his head helplessly. Lin Che was eating with Jiyu Jingyu. The place that Jiyu Jingyu had chosen was a quiet and secluded place. There was no noise from the fans, and there were no staff accompanying him carefully. Lin Che ate his food in a relaxed manner. Jiyu Jingyu looked at him from the side and said, eat slowly. No one's fighting with you over your food. Why is everyone in the Jiyu family so troublesome? It's my habit to eat fast, but you guys are the ones who take your time eating. You're too slow. Lin Che remembered that when Jiyu Jingzi ate, he was just as leisurely. His movements were elegant, and his manners were generous. Jiyu Jingyu looked at her strangely. What Jiyu family? How many Jiyu family members have you seen besides me? Ah. No, Mr. President. Who doesn't know him? I saw him eat at the state banquet. He's so slow. Jiyu Jingyu said, how dare you talk bad about my brother in front of me? What's wrong? Although he's the president, I'm still a citizen. The president serves the people, right? Jiyu Jingyu felt that this girl's words were really interesting. He pinched her cheeks even harder. Hey, Jiyu Jingyu, if you touch me again, I won't go easy on you. Jiyu Jingyu laughed. Then, his phone rang. He picked it up and didn't care that Lin Che was still on the other side. He picked up the phone. Chuxia. Why do you have time to call me? The person who called Jiyu Jingyu was Lu Chuxia. Lu Chuxia said, "It's nothing. I just wanted to ask, did your second brother really end things with Mo Hualing?" "My second brother? Right. He's already married, so it's definitely over." When Lin Che heard the words second brother, the chopsticks in his hand paused. He couldn't help but raise his head. Lu Chuxia said, "If that's the case, do you think it's possible for your second brother and I to be together?" "No way. How could you fall for an antique like him? A man like him naturally has something that attracts women. Of course, you wouldn't understand. I really don't understand why so many people like him, a gloomy man who spends all his time playing with swords and knives in the shopping mall and coming up with conspiracies and schemes when he has nothing better to do," Yizichin said. "Just tell me if it's possible." "It's possible. You're a socialite. Who doesn't know your name? Who doesn't know you? How many men have fallen for you? You should work harder. I'm also looking forward to the blossoming of the stone tree. Let me see if he can be completely conquered by any woman." "Really? Don't lie to me. But isn't my second brother already married? Why are you getting involved? What do you know? He doesn't even love that woman. You've been out for too long and don't care about what's going on at home." "Mph, I'm confident. I'll hang up now." Jiyu Jingyu put down the phone and saw Lin Che's strange expression. Lin Che looked at Jiyu Jingyu. "Who is that? Why is it your second brother?" Jiyu Jingyu said, "Oh, Lu Chuxia. I don't know if you've heard of this person. But since you're so dumb, you probably haven't heard of her. She's the daughter of the Lu family, a socialite. She's very famous in the circle and she's a good friend of my younger sister. She just told me that she wants to pursue my brother and asked me if it's possible." Unknowingly, Lin Che felt the chopsticks in his hand tighten bit by bit. His hand hurt a little. "Isn't your second brother already married? I heard that my second brother doesn't like that woman at all. I think he was forced to get married by my family. She's also someone who doesn't match their social status. Don't worry about it. My family doesn't care about it. But I feel that if she's a commoner, she shouldn't have anything in common with an old-fashioned person like my second brother." Jiyu Jingyu only felt that Lin Che's gaze was getting dimmer. Jiyu Jingyu said, "Hey, don't think that I'm old-fashioned. It's just that I know my second brother. He's extremely old-fashioned. He's different from a free and modern person like me. Plus, he has a lot of problems. If you live with him for a few months, you'll know how good I am." "So, they're suited to be together?" Lin Che asked. Jiyu Jingyu said, "They're well-matched in social status and their personalities are basically suitable. Although the Jiyu family doesn't need a woman to help them, the Lu family should be of some help to the Jiyu family's profits. Also, the Mo Hualing that my brother liked in the past is somewhat similar to this Lu Chuxia. I think they should be similar." As Jiyu Jingyu said this, he felt that something was wrong. He looked at Lin Che and asked, "Why are you so interested in my second brother's matters?" "Oh, nothing. I'm just curious." Lin Che smiled. Of course the people of Country C are very interested in hearing about the Jiyu family. After all, they're so mysterious. "Really? I don't think they're any different from ordinary people." For some reason, Lin Che ate less after that. After eating for a short while, he felt full. They had to continue filming the next day, so the two of them could only go home, saying that they would see each other tomorrow. On the way, Yang Lingxin saw that Lin Che was looking outside with a dazed expression, as if he was absent-minded. She asked, "Sister Che, what's wrong? Are you not happy eating?" Lin Che came back to his senses. "No, I'm very happy." "Then why do you look so absent-minded?" Yang Lingxin said, "Just now, I saw that everyone was very envious that Sister Che could eat with Jiyu Jingyu." "Is that so? Don't we all eat together? What's there to be envious about?" Lin Che leaned against the wall lazily. He felt that he didn't want to move at all. It was as if his body had suddenly lost all of its energy. Although Jiyu Jingzi and Mo Hualing had separated, it was undeniable that he must have loved Mo Hualing. The type he liked was definitely a lady from a wealthy family like Mo Hualing, and not a small fry like Lin Che who only knew how to cause trouble. Lin Che suddenly realized that actually, the distance between her and Jiyu Jingze was not just because of Mo Hualing. It was because their worlds were completely different. Chapter 290. Soon, they arrived at the Jiyu residence. Jiyu Jingze was already waiting for her at the door. When he heard that she was back, he walked out immediately. Seeing Lin Che's lazy look, he walked over and said, "What's wrong? Are you tired from your first day of filming?" Lin Che watched as Jiyu Jingze strode over. He was wearing home clothes and a pair of thin-rimmed glasses for the first time today, which neutralized the sharpness on his face and softened the edges of his face, making him look much gentler. In the past, he was like a dark knight who would always be around to protect her. Today, he was like a proper prince. All of a sudden, it made her sigh, and her heart softened a lot. She looked at Jiyu Jingze and said, "Why did you come out?" Jiyu Jingze smiled and said, "I saw you coming back, so I came to see you." It was the first time young Lingshan had seen him like this. She couldn't help but be shocked. She didn't expect that Jiyu Jingze, who was dressed so simply, could look so handsome and charming. Jiyu Jingze saw that Lin Che looked lazy and seemed to be in a bad mood. He walked over and asked, "Are you really tired?" Lin Che looked at Jiyu Jingze and didn't tell him what she had heard today. She only said, "A little tired." Jiyu Jingze looked at Lin Che. He suddenly walked over and carried her in his arms. "Ah!" Lin Che screamed and tugged at Jiyu Jingze's shirt with both hands. "What are you doing?" Jiyu Jingze lowered his head and smiled. "I'm tired. But we can't do it here." Her face was red as she looked at the people behind them who were still looking at them. There were people behind them and he didn't know what to pay attention to. Jiyu Jingze carried her and walked straight into the house. When the servants and security guards saw this, they all consciously turned their heads away. Lin Che was still patting his chest. "Put me down, Jiyu Jingze." Jiyu Jingze said, "Okay, I'll put you down when we're on the bed." "Get lost, I don't want to." Jiyu Jingze and Lin Che's figures were completely silent by the door. Young Lingshan then turned her head and said to the servant, "Your sir treats Sister Che so well." The servant said, "Of course. Are they husband and wife? We've never seen them before. Mr. dotes on one person so much." Young Lingshan took a look before she left. The bodyguards sent her home. Sitting in the car, young Lingshan touched the leather of the car and said to the bodyguards, "You guys are so good at being the bodyguards of the Jiyu family. Even the car you take is so expensive." The bodyguard had escorted her many times, but he had never spoken much to her. Upon hearing her words, he said to young Lingshan, "Yes, sir is very good to us subordinates." Young Lingshan said, "You have to be able to afford it. After all, the Jiyu family can't be compared to other families." Jiyu Jingze put Lin Che on the bed. She covered her eyes to keep him away. Jiyu Jingze said, "What? Are you on your period again?" "No, I don't want it." "Let go of me," Lin Che said, pushing him hard. Jiyu Jingze looked at Lin Che and said, "What's wrong? Are you too tired?" Lin Che nodded. "Yes, very tired." Jiyu Jingze looked at her deeply. After a while, he finally let go of her. He pulled up her clothes and said to her, "Okay, I'll let you go today. But no matter how tired you are, you still have to take a bath. Let's go. I'll carry you to take a bath first." "It's okay. I can do it myself." "I'm not that tired," Lin Che said hurriedly. Jiyu Jingze said, "No, I want to use your body too. So you have to take good care of it so that it's enough for me to use, understand?" Lin Che was speechless. "You? What do you mean by using it? You're so annoying." Jiyu Jingze smiled and carried her straight to the bathroom. He put Lin Che beside the bathtub. He had never liked servants to come in and serve him in the room. Even though it was the servants who tidied up the house, when he and Lin Che were here, he only hoped that they were the only two people here. It would be best if other people didn't come in and disturb their world. Lin Che looked at Jiyu Jingze's glasses. "Why are you wearing glasses today?" Jiyu Jingze touched his glasses. "I'm a little short-sighted." Ah, you're short-sighted. A little, but it's okay if I don't wear them usually. My eyes are not feeling well today, so I want to read. What's wrong? Isn't it good? Ji Jingze asked. Lin Che touched his glasses. How could it not be good? Everything about him was good. No, I think it's very nice. Really? His eyes lit up when he heard that she liked it. Lin Che nodded. You seem to be a lot more refined. You're not as bad as you usually are. How am I bad? You're bad everywhere. Humph, you're the worst to me. Ji Jingze looked at her speechlessly. You really don't know how lucky you are. Am I bad to you? You're the worst, Humph. Ji Jingze thought that this little woman had been spoiled by him. Now she was riding on his head every day and was speaking more and more boldly. However, he was happy in his heart. He didn't feel bad at all. The water was still in the bathtub. He looked at Lin Che and said calmly, sometimes, you also like it when I'm bad to you. Get lost. Who likes it? You. As Ji Jingze said that, he felt that his body was out of control again. He wanted to be bad to her. But if she didn't want to, then forget it. He said, you'll feel bad when I don't want to be bad to you, idiot. As Ji Jingze said that, his fiery palms were already radiating heat. Lin Che felt that something was wrong. He looked down and saw that his body was obviously burning. You. Lin Che's expression changed. She looked at Ji Jingze and said, why did you? Ji Jingze said, my body wants to be bad to you. Sometimes, I can't control it, so you can't blame me for this. It seemed that he really wanted to. Otherwise, a thin layer of sweat would not have appeared on that firm nose of his. Lin Che looked at him. Since you want to, why did you stop? Ji Jingze looked at her little face. If you don't want to, then forget it. This is something that will only be happy if both of us are happy. If you're tired, we can go to sleep. Don't worry about me. I'll take a bath later. Do you want to take a cold bath again? Lin Che asked hurriedly. Ji Jingze pinched her nose. What do you think? Lin Che looked at his crimson face and suddenly felt reluctant to part with him. Ji Jingze said, come on, take a bath. Lin Che, however, held Ji Jingze's hand. Ji Jingze was slightly stunned as he looked at Lin Che. Lin Che felt that she couldn't say such words. The words were stuck in her throat, and she couldn't force them out. She could only hold his hand and look at him closely. But he could endure so much pain because of her unwillingness. Lin Che really felt that Ji Jingze was a really good person. He was so good to her. She suddenly felt as if something was swelling in her heart. She pulled him, and her mouth moved for a long time before she finally said in a hoarse voice, that, it's not that I can't be bad. Ji Jingze's eyes lit up. Looking at Lin Che, he felt as if his body was swelling up along with her words. Did she know that this was no different from an invitation? Did she know that such an invitation would be fatal to a man? Chapter 291. Ji Jingze's eyes sparkled as he stared at her. It was like a black hole with a fatal temptation. Just by looking at her, Lin Che felt like she was on fire. The bathtub was ready. Ji Jingze scooped Lin Che up. Lin Che cried out, I haven't showered yet. Ji Jingze smiled and put her into the huge jacuzzi tub. It's okay, let's shower together. Lin Che's face was completely red. He had not taken off his clothes and had already been thrown into the water. His wet clothes were tightly stuck to his skin. His tender flesh appeared even more alluring under such an image, giving off an urge to rub it hard. Ji Jingze followed Lin Che into the water. The desire in his eyes intensified as he watched Lin Che's expression. This tempting little vixen, he really wanted to eat her up and be done with it. Lin Che raised his head and watched as the man slowly covered his face. His entire face was burning up. Don't worry, I'll wash your body clean. I won't miss a single spot. 2 hours later, in the Jiu mansion, Ji Jingze carried Lin Che to the hospital urgently. Lin Che's face was still red. Ji Jingze was wearing home clothes. He hugged Lin Che tightly with a serious expression. The driver looked at the two of them. He was puzzled. He didn't know what had happened. Soon, they arrived at the hospital. Jiyu Jingze carried Lin Che into the gynecology department. He looked around and said, "Women stay. Men, get out." Lin Che's face turned even redder after hearing Jiyu Jingze's words. The people inside didn't dare to disobey. The men quickly opened the door and left without taking another look. Only then did Jiyu Jingze put Lin Che down. The doctor hurriedly walked over. The girl stole a glance at Jiyu Jingze before hurriedly looking at Lin Che. "Mr. Jiyu, this lady, my wife, she." Jiyu Jingze nodded and said, "She's injured." Lin Che lowered her head. She really wanted to bury her head in Jiyu Jingze's arms. Her face was red and she didn't dare to look at anyone. However, she could only obediently spread her legs for the doctor to see. The doctor looked down and immediately understood. She stole a glance at Jiyu Jingze and blushed even more. The doctor smiled and said, "Sir, madam, it's all right. It's just a slight tear. Apply some medicine and rest for a few days and it'll be fine. However, you can't have sex for the time being. Even if you do have sex in the future, be careful not to be too intense." Lin Che's face only became redder and redder. Listening to the doctor's words, he felt that he was really going to die here. It was too embarrassing. Jiyu Jingze's lips twitched. "Go get the medicine." The doctor looked at Lin Che enviously before hurriedly retreating. Jiyu Jingze took a deep breath and stepped in front of Lin Che. "Let me see how it is." Lin Che was stunned. He hurriedly pulled his legs together and looked at Jiyu Jingze. "What?" Jiyu Jingze held her knee with one hand and looked at her with a frown. "Let go of me." Lin Che shook his head violently. "No, it's fine now. You don't have to look. Haven't you seen it before? Why are you shy now? Hurry up and open it for me." "I really can't," Lin Che said. "There. How can you look at it like that?" Jiyu Jingze stared at Lin Che. His eyes were filled with stubbornness. He pressed down on her knee and forcefully opened it. However, the words that came out of his mouth were coaxing her. "Be good. Open it for me to see how it's done. Be obedient, okay? But, no buts. Open it yourself, or do I force you to open it?" Jiyu Jingze's domineering voice left Lin Che with no other choice. She could only obediently open her legs, feeling a little embarrassed. Jiyu Jingze looked at it carefully. With one look, his expression became even more gloomy. He did not expect that there would be such an injury. He did not expect that one day, the thing that he was supposed to be proud of would become a kind of injury to her. He looked at her wound with a little heartache and reached out to wipe it. When Lin Che saw this, she closed her legs together and clamped his hand between them. "No, what are you doing?" Lin Che hurriedly cried out. Jiyu Jingze raised his head and looked at her. "What are you doing?" "I'm taking a look to see if there's any injury inside." He felt extremely guilty. In his heart, he only wanted to scold himself for being a jerk. He had not been able to control himself for a moment and had done such a cruel thing to her. It was only because he had been a little too presumptuous and agitated in the bathtub today. Lin Che said, No, don't touch it. Don't you think it's dirty? After all, it was not a place that could be exposed. Even she herself felt that she should not touch it casually. It was dirty. However, Jiyu Jingze raised his head and looked at her steadily. "What's there to dislike?" "I don't dislike it. I like it." Lin Che was stunned. Her hand froze involuntarily as she looked at Jiyu Jingze in a daze. He looked into her eyes and said firmly, "I like every part of your body. I like it here too." Lin Che blushed. She felt his hand caressing her and felt her body heat up instantly. She tried hard to retract her legs, but it was not easy to do so. At this moment, she heard the door open. The doctor was back. Lin Che hurriedly pushed Jiyu Jingze away. Jiyu Jingze raised his eyebrows and stood up. When he saw the doctor come in with the medicine, he waved his hand and asked the doctor to leave. Then, he lowered his head and picked up the cotton wool to apply the medicine for Lin Che. I can do it myself." "How can you see from here?" Jiyu Jingze raised his head and glared at her. Lin Che said, "How? I can feel it. I'll apply it, and you'll feel it. I'll apply it, and you'll feel it." As the medicine rubbed against her skin, she felt a cooling sensation. However, Lin Che's face was still burning hot. "I don't feel anything," Lin Che cried out. After all, that was such a sensitive place. Jiyu Jingze was really guilty. He raised his head and said, "I'm sorry." Lin Che was stunned. Hearing him apologize, she raised her head and said, "What are you sorry for?" "I couldn't help it." Forget it. Didn't you want it to happen?" Lin Che said, "You didn't do it on purpose. It's okay. Actually, you don't have to come to the hospital. You will get better on your own." Jiyu Jingze looked at Lin Che. In the beginning, he knew that the girl had not experienced it before, so he had to be gentle and slow. Otherwise, it would hurt. Slowly, after developing it, she would get better. However, after so much time had passed and he had experienced it many times. Chapter 292. Although it made him feel comfortable, most of the time, he was reluctant to part with her. Because he was afraid that she would be in pain, he always approached her carefully and cautiously. This made him a little unhappy, but he could bear it. Last night, she couldn't help but hurt herself. How could he not feel remorseful? He said, "It won't happen again. I'll be careful." "No. It's okay." Lin Che lowered his head. When it came to matters like this, it would always make people feel embarrassed if they talked about it on the surface. Jiyu Jingze said, "Remember to tell me when you feel unwell." He held her hand and looked at her seriously. Lin Che said, I'm fine." How could she have had the rationality to think about this at that time? "So, do you feel comfortable?" Hearing her words, Jiyu Jingze felt as if flowers were blooming in his heart. Lin Che was stunned. He hurriedly said, "No, I didn't." Jiyu Jingze tightened his grip on her and said, "In the future, I'll hope that you'll feel more comfortable, but it won't hurt as much." Although Lin Che was very touched that he was so considerate of her. However, she still didn't want him to say such things in such a serious tone. Jiyu Jingze said, "Seriously, people say that the more you do it, the bigger it will get. Why are you still so narrow?" Lin Che was already speechless. She could only slap his chest coquettishly. "Get lost, you bastard." How would I know? You're so annoying. Looks like I'll have to endure it in the future." Lin Che was stunned. He looked at Jiyu Jingze and asked a little embarrassedly, Have you been holding back all this time?" Jiyu Jingze looked at her bitterly and said, "What do you think? Otherwise, do you think my martial arts is only this week? If I really used all my strength, I'm afraid that you wouldn't be able to get out of bed every day. Do you actually think that's my normal time? You underestimate your husband too much." If he hadn't said it in such a proud tone, she would have been extremely touched. However, looking at Jiyu Jingze, she still felt very touched. It turned out that he had always been so considerate of her, and she had never known it. She didn't know what to say. She could only pull him and say, "It's okay. I'm actually fine." He sighed and suddenly thought of something. He said to her, "It's said that after giving birth, that place will become bigger. Why don't we just have a child?" "Phut." Lin Che almost spat out his saliva again. "Are you kidding me? Give birth? What child? He even had a child for this reason. Was he crazy? Is there something wrong with you?" "I'm not giving birth," Lin Che said to him with his hands on his hips. Jiyu Jingze narrowed his eyes and looked at Lin Che thoughtfully. She didn't hesitate to say that she didn't want to give birth, which made him feel a little depressed. It seemed that from the beginning, she had never thought about having a child with him. Was she really that resistant to having children with him? Lin Che avoided his gaze, not wanting him to see the bitterness in his heart. Children? They hadn't even figured out their own feelings, so how could they have children? She knew that he was just joking. How could a rational person like him have children so easily? Otherwise, even now, they were still taking precautions. He was so rational that he definitely wouldn't let her have children so easily. But he didn't know that she was stupid or silly. Sometimes, she would take his words seriously. So she had to constantly remind herself that he didn't love her and treat her well, so she shouldn't fall for him so easily. But it was really hard to reject this man. Seeing that she seemed to be fine, Jiyu Jingza picked her up and said, "Let's go home." Lin Che's face was still red from being hugged by him. She leaned against his chest and sometimes thought that it would be good if he didn't treat her so well. Maybe then she wouldn't fall for him so quickly, but maybe one day, if he really treated her badly, she would be very sad. Women were really contradictory individuals. Outside, the doctor watched as Jiyu Jingza carried Lin Che away. He shrunk his head and discussed with a red face, "Where's Jiyu Jingza? His wife is so happy. Did it hurt because it was too intense?" "Yeah, it's too big. It's a little torn. He's so lucky. He's so handsome and rich." For the next few days, in order not to hurt Lin Che, Jiyu Jingza could only try his best to avoid her. Although he was a little uncomfortable, he still had to wait for Lin Che to recover completely before he dared to touch her again carefully. Hugging a woman that he wanted to touch but couldn't touch her, this feeling, it was really torturous to the bone. But seeing Lin Che slowly recover and continue to be carefree and not care about it, he felt very gratified. That day, Lin Che continued to film and Jiyu Jingza went back to the Jiyu family. The Jiyu family. When Jiyu Jingza entered the door, Lu Chuxia was already running out. When she saw Jiyu Jingza, she greeted him, "Jingza, you're back. I was waiting for you." Jiyu Jingza looked at Lu Chuxia and said, "Chuxia, why are you waiting for me? I've already said what I have to say last time, haven't I?" Lu Chuxia smiled and said, "Yeah, but I've also told you before. It's not my character to give up easily. Besides, I'm giving you time to think about it." Jiyu Jingza said, "I've already said that I don't have feelings for you. Then do you have feelings for your current wife?" Lu Chuxia pestered him and asked. Jiyu Jingza's gaze suddenly turned cold. He looked at Lu Chuxia and said, "I'm already married and I won't get a divorce. As for my relationship with my wife, it's none of your business." Lu Chuxia's body trembled. She was a smart person and knew that she had said the wrong thing. Of course, Jiyu Jingza was high and mighty, so he couldn't be too aggressive. She smiled and said, "All right, I'm not saying that because I like you. Jingza, if it's just for the sake of marriage, wouldn't we be more suitable?" She immediately linked her arms with his. Jiyu Jingza frowned and wanted to push her away, but Lu Chuxia hugged him unwillingly and said, "Jiyu Jingza, I'm your savior after all. People say that you're a loyal person. Is this how you treat me?" Jiyu Jingza froze and looked at Lu Chuxia. Seeing that she had indeed saved his life, he didn't push her away. The next moment, Lu Chuxia's lips met his face and kissed him. "You." Jiyu Jingza finally couldn't hold it in and pushed her away. Chapter 293. Lu Chuxia smiled. "Jingza, I like you. Think about it carefully. I'm not as good as your wife, who's an actress. I'm better than her in everything. Think about it rationally and think about who's more suitable for you. You don't have a child yet anyway. Even if you get divorced, it won't affect either of you." Jiyu Jingza looked at Lu Chuxia. "All right, I'll think about it. But if you're not satisfied with the result, I hope you won't be angry." Lu Chuxia said, "I know you're smarter than me. How could you not understand something that even I can understand, right?" But at this moment, Jiyu Jingza already felt that something was wrong with him. He couldn't tell anyone about his illness. His family knew, but Lu Chuxia naturally didn't know. He said hastily, "Yes, I'll think about it." Then, he said, "I still have something to do. I'll talk to my mom. I won't be going in for the time being." With that, he quickly called Chen Yucheng. He was showing signs of relapse. In the studio, Chen Yucheng looked at Jiyu Jingza gloomily. "All right, it's not a rash. It's just a little red." Jiyu Jingza looked at his own cheeks and sighed faintly. "This early summer," Chen Yucheng said, "should we inform Mrs. Jiyu?" Jiyu Jingza shook his head. "No need." Chen Yucheng said, But this lady is quite proactive and open-minded. She knows that you have a family, but she still tries to get close to you. Jiyu Jingze shook his head. She's been spoiled since she was young. She was also overbearing when she was young. She's used to it. Anyway, it's just for fun. You don't have to take it seriously. Really? Chen Yuqing said, but if Mr. Jiyu really marries the Lu family, it'll be a good thing for the Jiyu Corporation. Jiyu Jingze looked at him coldly. Chen Yuqing quickly said, I'm just kidding. What do you want now, Mr. Jiyu? Jiyu Jingze said, I promised her that I'll think about it. All right. Jiyu Jingze was calculating in his heart. Although logically speaking, she was indeed suitable for the Jiyu Corporation, and she was also the type that he should have liked. She was a socialite, well-educated, reasonable, confident, and intelligent. However, he didn't have the same feelings for Lin Che. When he thought of Lin Che, he felt an inexplicable urge towards her even though she was clearly not his type. As for Lu Chuxia, he only treated her like a younger sister. He treated her the same way he treated Jiyu Jingyan. Therefore, the result of his consideration was that he didn't want to leave Lin Che at all. When Lin Che was still on the set, he suddenly received a call from a servant at home, saying that Jiyu Jingze was sick. Lin Che was stunned. He hurriedly told Jiyu Jingyu that he had something to attend to and had to leave first. Jiyu Jingyu was quite confused. Seeing Lin Che's flustered expression, she asked, What's wrong? Did something happen? If you need my help, do let me know. No, it's just that, there's something going on at home, so I'll head back first. Jiyu Jingyu said, I'll ask someone to send you there. No need, my company has a car. Jiyu Jingyu had never seen her so flustered before. He thought that she probably had something to do, so he walked her out. Even the director followed them out. Wherever Jiyu Jingyu went, they would definitely follow. After all, he was Jiyu Jingyu. However, when they saw that Jiyu Jingyu only wanted to send Lin Che off, their eyes met and they started to communicate. They didn't expect Jiyu Jingyu to care so much about this girl. At the studio, Lin Che hurriedly came over and saw that Shun Yuran was actually there. Yuran, you're here. Great, I heard that Jiyu Jingze is sick. Where is he? Shun Yuran saw Lin Che and said, Hey, what's going on? Jiyu Jingze just broke up with Mo Hualing. How did he get involved with someone called Lu Chuxia? Lin Che was stunned. Lu Chuxia, so, his illness this time was because of Lu Chuxia? Lu Chuxia. What happened between them for him to cause his illness? Lin Che felt her face stiffen. Her body also became a little weak because of this news. She didn't rush inside again. She froze there, unable to react for a moment. No, why did she care so much? She didn't need to care so much about who he was related to. Anyway, they had agreed from the start that there were no feelings between them. They were only married. He was her husband, but he wasn't her lover. Yes, he had always been her husband. However, why did this realization suddenly make her heart turn cold? It was as if the coldness had spread from her heart to every cell in her body, and her entire body had turned cold as well. Shun Yuran saw that she didn't look good and quickly pulled her to ask, What's wrong? Who is this Lu Chuxia? Lin Che looked at Shun Yuran and quickly put away the daze on her face. She's a young lady from a family that matches the Jiyu family. I heard that she's a socialite and very famous in the circle. When Shun Yuran heard this, she remembered that socialites could go online to check how famous they were. I don't believe that she's famous. How can she be as famous as you? Hey, stop checking. That's a different kind of fame, Lin Che said. However, Shun Yuran was already unwilling to give up. She typed that name into her phone and Lu Chuxia's photo immediately appeared on the browser. It seemed to be a photo of her attending a banquet. She was wearing a very generous wraparound dress and looked beautiful and elegant. It was similar to how Mo Hualing used to look. Sigh, I didn't expect her to be so famous. Shun Yuran said angrily, the second daughter of the Lu family, Lu Beichen's younger sister, a flower in the socialite circle. She's very popular and is the dream lover of many rich young masters. Phut, I don't think she's as pretty as you. However, There were also comments below that said that they were different from celebrities. They didn't rely on their looks, but on their temperament. Socialites were socialites after all. Shun Yuran said gloomily, "This Jiyu Jingza, he has a wife. Why would he still mess around with this kind of woman?" Shun Yuran saw that Lin Che was standing there and didn't seem to be in a good mood. She quickly said, "That's not what I meant. I think she might have accidentally touched something. Touching something to the extent that it could cause a relapse. She must have touched something really deeply. Moreover, she had heard from Chen Yuqing that the relapse would only happen when someone's sweat or saliva came into contact with it. How could it happen if she had accidentally touched it? She probably had intimate contact with it for a while." Lin Che raised his head and looked at Shun Yuran. "Didn't I tell you that Jiyu Jingza and I are different from ordinary married couples? It's okay. I'll go in and take a look first." Chapter 294. After Lin Che entered the room, Chen Yuqing was surprised to see her. "Mrs. Jiyu, why are you here?" Lin Che said, "Didn't you ask your family to inform me?" "Oh, really? It's not a big deal. I just bumped into her by accident. This kind of thing happened occasionally in the past, so I didn't ask anyone to inform you. Maybe the servant thought that she would inform you every time she got sick, so she harassed you without permission." Seeing that Chen Yuqing had explained it to her, Lin Che just waved her hand casually. "It's okay. It's my duty." At this moment, Jiyu Jingza probably heard the noise in the room. When he walked out, he could see a patch of red on his face near his lips. Did he get intimate with her? Lin Che was stunned. He walked over with a smile and said, "You look fine. The servant said that you got sick, so I came here in a hurry." Jiyu Jingza frowned. He turned around and said to the people behind him, "Go and see who called Mrs. Jiyu." The people behind him paused. Seeing Jiyu Jingza's gloomy face, they knew that the person would disappear from Jiyu Jingza's side from now on. Lin Che naturally didn't know what he meant. She just walked over with a smile and said, "It's okay. They were afraid that something would happen to you. But it looks like you're fine." Jiyu Jingza took a few steps forward and put his arm around Lin Che's shoulder. He gave Chen Yuqing a look, signaling for him to leave first. Then he led Lin Che out. "Let's go. It's okay. Why did you come from the filming place?" Lin Che smiled. "It's okay. Have you eaten?" "Not yet. Let's go eat first." "Okay." Seeing that Lin Che didn't seem to have any reaction, Jiyu Jingza finally relaxed. He took a deep look at Lin Che before leading her out. Shun Yuran and Chen Yuqing watched him leave before Shun Yuran said, "President Jiyu is quite pitiful. He won't be able to have an affair in the future even if he wants to. Once he has an affair, he will suffer a relapse and be discovered." Sigh. Chen Yuqing looked at Shun Yuran gloomily and frowned. "What nonsense are you talking about? How can it be called cheating?" Shun Yuran said, "Isn't it called cheating? Look, she was kissed." Chen Yuqing said, "It's just a kiss. You call that cheating? And that woman is quite pretty. She's a lady from a respectable family. Do you think a lady from a respectable family would kiss a married man for no reason? Seriously, the noble circle is really messy." Chen Yuqing said, "That's not what President Jiyu wants either. Even if you don't think about it on the surface, you must be happy in your heart. It's easy for a woman to chase a man. When a woman stands naked in front of a man, which man wouldn't be tempted? Anyway, no man is good. I used to think that President Jiyu was a good man, but I didn't expect him to flirt with a woman." As he spoke, Shun Yuran glared forcefully at Chen Yuqing before walking forward. Chen Yuqing shrugged and looked at her. "What does this have to do with me? Why are you venting your anger on me? Hey, come back here. President Gu's illness can't be told to outsiders. Don't blame me if you let it slip and get killed." When Shun Yuran heard this, he hurriedly turned around and said, He'll even kill people to silence them. Is it that serious?" Chen Yuqing looked at her speechlessly. He thought to himself that this silly girl wouldn't really kill people to silence them. She would just take it seriously after scaring her a little. However, It was better for her to think of it seriously. If she really let it slip, it would only cause trouble. Yeah, do you think that the GU family is a pushover in Country C? If it gets out, you might lose your life. Ah, I'm innocent. Dr. Chen, you have to uphold justice for me. Be a good girl and serve me well. Come and massage my legs first, then I'll consider taking care of you. Shen Yuran looked at him speechlessly. She blinked as she thought to herself that Juichen was really a bastard. He only knew how to exploit her every day. February was the first exciting holiday after the New Year. It was none other than Valentine's Day. Along the way, one could see Valentine's Day advertisements all the time. Lin Che sat in the nanny van and soon arrived at the set. Yu Minmin said, "It's Valentine's Day tomorrow. Do you need me to help you apply for leave?" Lin Che looked at Yu Minmin. "Why would I apply for leave? To go out with your president GU, of course. Forget it. Why are we celebrating Valentine's Day? We're husband and wife, understand? We're not lovers. That's enough. Don't act like you're innocent. I've never celebrated Valentine's Day in my life." Just then, Jiu Jingze called. "What are you doing?" he asked. Lin Che said, "I'm at the set." "Okay, continue with your work. I'm just telling you that I might be going abroad tonight." "Ah, okay. I got it. Be careful on the road." "Okay, I'll be back soon." Lin Che put down the phone. Yu Minmin asked, "What's wrong?" Lin Che said, "You don't have to apply for leave. He's going abroad tomorrow. I'll celebrate Valentine's Day with everyone." Yu Minmin said, "You guys are so boring." Lin Che said, "Didn't I tell you? We won't spend Valentine's Day so bored." She supported her head with her hand and looked out at the streets whizzing past. She felt a little disappointed. She knew that she was being unreasonable. He was not someone who would celebrate Valentine's Day. How could she not know that after being with him for so long? However, she still had some expectations in her heart. Jiu Jingze booked a flight that night. Because he was only going to the surrounding area, it would only take 3 hours. When he arrived, it was only early in the morning. However, just as he got off the plane, he saw Lu Chuxia coming out. "Jingze, I've been waiting for you for a long time." She smiled as she walked over. Jiu Jingze looked at her and walked over. He said calmly, "Why are you here?" "You're here for the summit." "I'm here too." "Why? Is the GU family looking down on the Lu family? I know that you're a VIP and everyone welcomes you. I'm just here to join in the fun, but you can't look down on us like that." "That's not it." Jiu Jingze glanced at her. He didn't say anything and walked inside. "Hey, Jiu Jingze, can you wait for me?" Lu Chuxia hurried over. Jiu Jingze said, "I've thought about what you said. I'm telling you very seriously that I still choose to be with Lin Che. So, you better stay away from me, lest we waste each other's time." "Ah, Jiu Jingze, you're really heartless. How can you be so cruel to a girl? You don't give me any leeway at all," she said. Jiu Jingze said, "You asked me to think about it seriously, and I've thought about it seriously. How else can I give you leeway? All right, then. Since the first round of wooing failed, I'll start the second round," she said as she smiled at him. Jiu Jingze frowned and looked at Lu Chuxia from the corner of his eyes. He shook his head, took a deep breath, and walked forward without looking away. Chapter 295. The next day. Valentine's Day came, and it was hard to resist. Lin Che sat on the chair on the set. Xin Xiaoyuan had arrived. The two of them didn't have many scenes together, so they rarely met. Perhaps because they kept saying that they didn't get along, the director deliberately put their scenes at the end. So they didn't have much to say when they saw each other. They sat in their own places and didn't disturb each other. Jiu Jingyu quickly walked over and looked at Lin Che. "Why? Are you spending Valentine's Day alone?" "I'm spending it with you," Lin Che said. Jiu Jingyu said, "Ha, where's your husband? Can't he be here?" Jiu Jingyu found it harder and harder to believe that she was already married. I feel that there's something wrong with your marriage, he said. Lin Che looked at him. What's wrong with it? Even if it's a secret marriage, it shouldn't be this secret. Look at you. You always act like you're living alone, and you don't look like you're being nourished by a man. TSK, look at your face. As he said that, he reached out and pinched her face hard. Hey. Lin Che said, we've been husband and wife for a long time. It's not as boring as you think. One look and I can tell that you don't understand the true meaning of marriage. Marriage is like this. Two people just need to get used to each other. Look at that manager of mine. What did she receive on Valentine's Day? She even asked me for leave at night, saying that she wanted to spend some alone time together. Look at you, get lost. We don't like this kind of formalism. All right. Forget it. I think your husband isn't in B City at all. Has he forgotten about your existence? TSK, his staff might have been with him longer than you. What's the point of your marriage? Your home has become a hotel, and you've become a decoration. Tell me, this sentence directly stabbed into Lin Che's heart. Perhaps he had just unintentionally wanted to crack a joke to deliberately attack her. However, when Lin Che heard it, her heart ached again and again. Indeed, he had only wanted to marry her as a decoration when he married her. Working together was a nice way to put it. Actually, his original intention was that she was just a decoration for others to see. However, he treated her so well even though she was just a decoration. It was so good that she vaguely felt as if she had really become his wife. Lin Che looked at Jiyu Jingyu hatefully and said, Jiyu Jingyu, you're a single dog. You don't want others to have an easy time, do you? All right, be a good girl. Don't be so anxious. Since no one is accompanying you, I'll accompany you. Let's go for dinner tonight. I don't think it's a good idea. Lin Che thought that it would be fine if it was any other day, but today was Valentine's Day. If they were to be photographed eating together, he wouldn't be able to explain himself even if he had a mouth. Jiyu Jingyu seemed to have seen through Lin Che's thoughts. He was speechless as he said, all right. I'll treat all the single people in the crew to a dinner party. You can come too. Don't worry, I won't cheat you. Hearing Jiyu Jingyu's words, Lin Che raised his head with a twinkle in his eyes. Is that so? You should have said so earlier. All right, then I'll go as well. Jiyu Jingyu shook his head and looked at her. This silly girl was really afraid of having a scandal with him. When did he become so hateful? At night. When Lin Che and Jiyu Jingyu arrived at the venue, they realized that it was indeed a big party. Everyone was eating at the gathering place. When they saw Jiyu Jingyu and Lin Che coming in, they all stood up and said thank you, Almighty Jiyu, for your hospitality. Lin Che and Jiyu Jingyu sat together inside. Jiyu Jingyu asked someone to prepare food for Lin Che. Lin Che said, don't worry about me. I'm not a disabled child. I can eat by myself. Lin Che, who in this house doesn't want me to serve her personally? Look at you, I'm just making you a dish. What's with your attitude? Lin Che didn't want everyone to misunderstand. He looked around and saw that everyone was still secretly looking at them. Although the two of them would be stared at like this whenever they appeared together in the past few days, Lin Che still couldn't get used to it. Just then, someone shouted, Jingyu, your second brother is on the news. Jiyu Jingyu glanced over and said, my second brother? Jiyu Jingza. It's on the news. There's no need to look at it. His photos will all be deleted in the country soon. He doesn't like to be exposed. Let's take a look at it quickly. When Lin Che heard that, he quickly picked up his phone. He opened it and saw that the news was indeed saying that he was going to attend some economic summit. It seemed like it was a national event. Someone said, Jiyu Jingza is so amazing. He's going to attend an event on behalf of the country. It must be amazing. He's going there for the national cooperation. Didn't you see that? The reception is national etiquette. Hey, why is there a woman beside him? She looks so familiar. A woman? Lin Che hurriedly grabbed his phone and hastily scanned his message. Her eyes fell on the blurry picture. It was obviously taken secretly. Jiyu Jingze was standing there with his back facing the camera. On the other side, Lu Chuxia was holding his arm. The way they stood together, they looked like a good match. Of course, Lu Chuxia was such a beautiful and elegant woman. She was wearing the same work attire and had the air of an elite woman. Standing beside him, people who didn't know better would think that they were husband and wife. Lin Che's hand that was holding the phone stopped. Her vision seemed to be a little blank. Jiyu Jingyu seemed to have noticed that she was different. He looked at her and asked, "What's wrong, Lin Che? Are you okay?" "Oh, I'm fine." Lin Che quickly came back to her senses after being touched by him. She smiled and said, "Let's eat." Actually, she was very good at pretending. Since young, she knew how to be calm when she was sad. Because she had been alone since she was young, even if she showed sadness, what could she do? No one would comfort her, and no one would understand her sadness. She had been in love with Qin Qing for so many years, and she had always been watching silently. Even though people said that she was careless, she knew that she was sensitive when it came to relationships. After all, she had felt inferior for so many years, but she had found a man of incomparable nobility. When it came to relationships, there was no such thing as status. There was only love and no love. However, when he didn't love her at all, status became especially important. When the dinner ended, Lin Che stood outside. Jiyu Jingyu came over and saw that something was wrong. He asked her, "What's wrong? You seem to be in a bad mood all of a sudden." Chapter 296. No. Lin Che looked up and smiled. "I'm leaving." After saying that, he ignored Jiyu Jingyu and jumped into the car. The nanny car drove to the Jiyu family. Lin Che jumped out of the car and entered the Jiyu family, only to feel that it was empty. What was Jiyu Jingze doing? Was he attending a banquet in another country with the woman who was compatible with him and liked him very much? Oh my, how could she let her imagination run wild? Shaking her head, she remembered to give her grandmother a call and quickly called her. Her grandmother laughed over the phone. "Xiaoche, did you just come back? It's so late." "Yeah, did I wake you up?" "Why would I? I'm old and I don't sleep much. If you want to call me, just call me. I'm alone. I'm always free." Yes, there was only one person at Grandma's place. Then, "Grandma, I'll go find her and accompany her for a few days, okay?" "Huh? You want to come here?" "Oh, this is a small town. Won't you mind?" "Why would I?" "Grandma, I won't mind." Then, Lin Che called Yu Minmin and told her that she wanted to take a few days off from the production crew to accompany her grandmother. Yu Minmin asked her what was wrong. Lin Che just said that her grandmother was old and needed company. After that, Lin Che called Jiyu Jingyu to ask for leave to accompany his grandmother. Hearing that, Jiyu Jingyu quickly agreed and told her not to worry. Anyway, the progress of the movie could still catch up, so there was no hurry. After making the arrangements, Lin Che went to buy plane tickets. It was a 3-hour flight from B City to the southern town and a 2-hour train ride. Lin Che packed her things and said that she didn't need anyone to accompany her. She just wanted to accompany her grandmother. The housekeeper thought it was strange, but she was the wife and they couldn't control her. They could only report to Jiyu Jingze as soon as possible. Although the two sides were close, there was still a time difference. When the call went through, Jiyu Jingze was already asleep. The next morning, Lin Che set off. At the same time, at Jiyu Jingze's side. After waking up, he was having breakfast in his villa. Lu Chuxia immediately ran over. After entering the door, she was stopped by the bodyguards outside. She said at the door, "Jingze, is the security here very tight?" Seeing that it was her, Jiyu Jingze calmly cut the chicken for breakfast. He didn't get up. He glanced at her and waved his hand to let her in. Lu Chuxia came over, sat down, and said, "I haven't eaten either. Can I have one?" Jiyu Jingze raised his hand and asked the waiter to bring another serving. Lu Chuxia said, "Hey, why don't you just ignore me? It's so boring for your wife to be with you. She's such a jumpy person, how can she stand you?" Jiyu Jingze looked at her. How do you know she's a jumper? Lu Chuxia said, after all, people of that social class haven't received proper etiquette education, so they're bound to be more jumpy. Plus, your sister said she's a lively person. Her personality is so different from yours, so your life must be terrible. Jiyu Jingze only smiled. No, we're fine. You're worrying too much. Lin Che was very lively and jumpy, but he liked to listen to her talk. No matter what she said, he felt that it was very interesting. Perhaps it was because she always didn't care about anything and said whatever she wanted to say. Sometimes, there was even no logic between the two sentences, which made him feel that it was quite interesting. Lu Chuxia naturally didn't believe him. She said, since you're free today, why don't we go out for a walk? I still have work. Then how about I accompany you to work here? Wouldn't it be less tiring to work with a man and a woman together? Sorry, I don't like people beside me when I'm working. Such a direct rejection made Lu Chuxia feel very defeated. She had never met a man who didn't give her face like this. However, he was Jiyu Jingze. After leaving Jiyu Jingze's villa, she wanted to see what kind of person Lin Che was. Since he was a celebrity, she thought that she could search for Lin Che's information. However, her hand was already on her phone. Her pride made her retract her hand. He was just an actor. How could he be worthy of being her competitor? Jiyu Jingze wouldn't ignore any woman because of her. He didn't look at her. He said that he was close to Lin Che because he wanted to reject her. She understood, but she didn't feel embarrassed at all. After all, Jiyu Jingze was Jiyu Jingze. He wasn't like other men. If he was so tempted by beauty, he wouldn't be worthy of being Jiyu Jingze. Jiyu Jingze quickly ended his trip here and set foot on the road back home. The private plane landed quickly. As he came out of the private passage, he saw the news about Jiyu Jingyu on the screen. On the screen was Jiyu Jingyu and Lin Che. The scene of the reporter visiting the set was being broadcasted on the news. The host of the entertainment news said, the two of them are old partners and are also good friends in private, so they have great chemistry. This time, the two of them are playing a couple who go through life and death together. I wonder if they will fall in love with each other. Previously, there were always rumors about them, but they were denied. Now, many fans are looking forward to the two of them being together. Jiyu Jingze was walking out with the group. When he saw the two of them acting together on the screen, he suddenly stopped in his tracks. He looked up and said to the person behind him, "Why are they broadcasting entertainment news at the airport?" The airport staff quickly said, "I'm sorry, Mr. Jiyu. We'll change it right away." She hadn't heard that Jiyu Jingze had such a bad habit. He didn't like to watch entertainment news. Jiyu Jingze knew that he had said that he wouldn't interfere with her work. Her work was bound to have scenes with other people. Her work was also bound to be involved in scandals. However, it was fine if he couldn't see it. He really saw it. He felt that the fire in his heart was quickly rising. Not long after, he quickly arrived outside and rushed back to the Jiyu clan. After entering the house, he threw away his clothes and took off his tie. The servant hurriedly followed behind him. Sir, you're back. Where's madam?" Jiyu Jingze's face was gloomy. Anyone could tell that he was angry. Jiyu Jingze was rarely angry. Even if he had a bad temper, he wouldn't show it on the surface. But at this moment, his face was gloomy. It made people not dare to get close to him. "Sir, don't worry. I wanted to inform you yesterday, but it was too late. You were already asleep and madam went out of town." "What?" he asked in surprise. "Where did she go? Why didn't anyone tell me that she went with third young master? She boarded the plane an hour before you came back. It should have taken off a long time ago." "Where did she go?" "She said she went to visit grandma." Jiyu Jingze paused. Chapter 297. Went to visit grandma. The plane took a train to the border town. Probably because it was far away from the hustle and bustle, even if she wore a hat and sunglasses, no one would recognize her. Because the people here wouldn't believe that a celebrity would come here for no reason. When she got off the train, Grandma was already there to pick Lin Che up. She even reached out to help Lin Che carry things. Lin Che said hurriedly, "Grandma, it's okay. I can do it myself. I'm young and strong. I don't need you to carry things for me." Grandma smiled and said, "You came from so far away. This place is so small and run down. You must be tired. You've never taken such a run-down train before. It's so bumpy. It's not like the trains in the big cities." "Grandma, you're talking about the high-speed rail, right? Is that the newest one? There will be one here in the future." Lin Che hadn't been on such a green train in a long time, but he didn't think much of it. Although this place was small and there were no endless skyscrapers in the distance, and there weren't any exquisite restaurants nearby, the air was so good that it made one feel comfortable. Lin Che followed his grandmother and quickly walked back. On the way, many people saw Lin Che and Chiu Shuyun coming back and they were all sizing them up from afar. Everyone was curious about the sudden appearance of two strangers in such a small place. "Old Madam Chiu, where did such a beautiful girl come from?" Chiu Shuyun smiled and said, "Is she my granddaughter?" "Ayo, your granddaughter is back. You always talk about her, but I didn't expect her to be so beautiful." "Of course. She looks very much like her mother. Look at her dressing. She's really classy. She must be from the big city." Yeah. She's from B City." Grandma's old neighbors looked very down-to-earth. They looked at Lin Che and smiled as they greeted him. Lin Che was very embarrassed by the praise. He could only lower his head slightly and follow Grandma into the small, run-down house. It was a one-story house that was about 50 square meters and looked very run-down. Lin Che's eyes were a little sore as he looked at Grandma. Grandma said embarrassedly, "It's too small and dirty. You must not be used to living here." "How can that be? It's very clean, but a little old. I'm used to it. I'm used to it everywhere. This is my grandma's home, so it's my home. How can I not be used to my own home?" Yes, this is your mother's home." Hearing Lin Che's words, Grandma was really happy. She immediately went out to cook for Lin Che. Lin Che didn't want to trouble her grandmother at first, but she came here and her grandmother wanted to make something for her out of love. She didn't want to refuse. After a while, a bowl of noodles was ready. Lin Che ate it and felt that it was very fragrant and sweet. "Is it delicious?" Grandma looked at her nervously and asked. Lin Che nodded, It's very similar to what Mommy did. Your mother has been spoiled by us since she was young. Although our family is poor, we never let her do anything, so she only knows how to make noodles." Lin Che looked at his grandmother, hugged her, and said, "Grandma is the best. Mommy has always missed you too." In the afternoon, Lin Che put on his clothes and walked outside with his grandmother. Although this place was small, the scenery was really good. It was not as bustling as a big city, and it was rare to see people passing by. The people at the side looked at Lin Che and sized her up curiously. Grandma was sitting outside picking vegetables when a neighbor came over to look at Lin Che and said with a smile, "This girl has soft skin and tender flesh. You can tell that she doesn't do any work." "But people in big cities don't do much work, right?" Lin Che smiled and said, "How could that be? I do work too. I inherited Grandma's good skin. When Grandma was young, it must have been even more tender than mine." Ayo, this girl really knows how to talk. As expected of someone from a big city. You have a sweet mouth. Little girl, are you married? Lin Che paused, the smile on his face froze for a moment. She was married, and she had a husband. But, Lin Che smiled and nodded. Grandma smiled and said, "Our little Che has a very good marriage. She loves little Che very much, and her house is very big. She is very rich, but she is only good to little Che." The neighbor said with some disbelief, "Ayo, it sounds so good. Is there really such a good person in this world?" Many people thought that men would turn bad when they got rich. Grandma didn't argue with them. She only said, "Yeah, Jingza is such a good person. Little Che is very happy now. Yeah, she should be satisfied." Looking at everyone's envious eyes, she felt that she should be satisfied. Jiu Jingza was so good, so rich, so handsome, and so good to her. Most of the marriages of ordinary people ended with a simple marriage. How could there be so many marriages because of love? She was too greedy and unreasonable. Just then, the phone rang. She looked down and saw that Jiyu Jingze had arrived. Had he returned to the country? Why would he suddenly call her? Holding the phone, she answered. On the phone, Jiyu Jingze asked a little angrily, "Why did you suddenly go to see Grandma?" Lin Che grabbed a leaf by the roadside and leaned against the trunk. "Nothing, I just miss Grandma." "What's wrong?" "Really? You just miss Grandma? Why didn't you tell me earlier? Weren't you overseas? Weren't you overseas attending a banquet with Lu Chuxia?" Thinking of that scene, Lin Che's heart twitched. It was so painful. A two-person marriage should be like this. The two of them worked hard together, went on business trips together, and discussed together. But she was so stupid that she couldn't even understand Jiyu Jingze's work. "You can answer the phone even when you are overseas." Jiyu Jingze's voice hardened. I didn't want to disturb your work." "Lin Che, why do you sound so strange? Did something happen?" Jiyu Jingze was puzzled. Why did she suddenly leave when she was still filming with Jiyu Jingyu the day before? Okay, I'm hanging up. "I have to help Grandma," she said and quickly hung up. Grandma looked up and asked, "What's wrong? Was it Jingze?" Yes." "What did he say? Was he worried because you were here?" No, I just came to ask." "Let's go, Grandma. I'll help you get the food." Life in the small town was simple and slow. The whole afternoon passed by quickly and smoothly. When the sun was setting, outside, a row of cars suddenly drove into the street. A few families stuck their heads out of curiosity and looked outside with a strange look. Grandma seemed to have heard the noise. She stuck her head out of the door. Chapter 298. Soon, she came in and shouted at Lin Che, Xiao Che, come and see, that is Jingzi Yi, right?" Lin Che was still sitting inside helping his grandmother pack her clothes. He heard his grandmother's voice, but he didn't react. "What? Grandma, what did you say?" "Jingze, isn't that Jingze?" "Jingze? Jiyu Jingze?" Lin Che hurriedly jumped off the bed. "No way. Why was Jiyu Jingze here?" Lin Che ran out quickly. As soon as he opened the door, he saw a row of cars outside. It looked very impressive. It reminded him of Jiyu Jingze. Lin Che looked outside in a daze. He didn't know why Jiyu Jingze was here. Was he here for her? Why did he come all the way here to find her? This place was so messy, dirty, and run down. How could the high and mighty Jiyu Jingze be here? However, he had come. Lin Che looked outside with his mouth slightly open. He saw the door open slowly and Jiyu Jingze stepped out. His expression was a little bitter, but it looked a little quiet. It was so deep that Lin Che felt it was sinister. "Jiyu Jingze, you." Jiyu Jingze walked down and looked at Lin Che, his eyes darkening. This woman, she dared to come so far and hang up on him. She was so disobedient. He felt that he had spoiled her too much, which made her more and more lawless. But he was helpless. What else could he do? Wasn't he the one who had followed them all the way here? He couldn't help but let her be proud again. Step by step, Jiyu Jingze stepped on the red soil and slowly walked towards them. "What's wrong? Do you see me as a ghost? What's with that expression?" He came all the way here, but she still gave him such an expression. What did she look like? Lin Che felt that he must have seen a ghost to see him here. "Why did you come here?" "Here? It's so far." Lin Che looked up and down at the travel-worn Jiyu Jingze. Jiyu Jingze really wanted to strangle her. Wasn't it because of her? "Why, are you not happy to see me?" he said in a low voice. No, how could How could Lin Che not be happy? It was as if she had seen him that her previously empty heart was suddenly filled up. But for a moment, he didn't know what to say. He could only stare at Jiyu Jingze in disbelief. "But why did you come?" "Because you dared to hang up on me. I'm here to get even with you." As he spoke, he reached out to pinch her cheeks. He pinched her cheeks so hard that it hurt. Ouch, it hurts. He was really angry. This time, she cried out in pain. Jiyu Jingza said, "You can still feel pain. This heartless woman still knows pain." He was really doubtful. Lin Che said speechlessly, "Of course, I'm not dead, of course it hurts." Jiyu Jingza stared at her little face. He hadn't seen her for a few days. Why did she suddenly seem to have lost a lot of weight? What had she been doing these past few days? Why was she in such a terrible state? She had treated him like this, but his heart still ached for her. He really felt that he was despicable. Otherwise, why would she become more and more arrogant? Wasn't it all because he doted on her? At this moment, Grandma was looking at the two of them from behind. Seeing Jiyu Jingza standing with her, Qiu Shuyun was very pleased. But she didn't expect him to come back. This time, Lin Che wouldn't stay for long and would have to go back again. It wasn't easy for her to come back. She really couldn't bear to part with Lin Che. Qiu Shuyun walked over with a smile. All right. What are you standing here talking about? Hurry up and come in. It's very windy outside." Jiyu Jingza then raised his head and looked at Grandma. His expression returned to normal. "Grandma, sorry for the sudden visit." Grandma smiled. "It's not a bother. Grandma can't be happier that you can come. It's just that this place is a little shabby." "It's not shabby. It's fine," Jiyu Jingza said. Lin Che looked at Jiyu Jingza, who was surrounded by elegance and composure. Look, he was so fierce to her just now, but now he was so gentle and elegant to others. And he still dared to say that he didn't have a grudge against her. He would be fierce to her. Humph. Jiyu Jingza took a look inside and followed Lin Che into the room. He gave the people behind a look to let them go first. It was a little short inside, just right for Lin Che and Grandma. But Jiyu Jingza was too tall. He had to bend down to enter the door. When he came in, his head was almost touching the roof. Grandma looked inside and said, "This place is too small. Look. How is it? It's uncomfortable, isn't it?" Jiyu Jingza looked around. He felt that this place was very shabby, but he still said to Grandma, "It's okay, Grandma. It's not like I haven't lived here before. When I was young, I went to teach and lived here for a while. It's okay." Lin Che looked at Jiyu Jingza in surprise. "Oh, you taught there before?" Jiyu Jingza looked at Lin Che. "Our upbringing is very strict. The army, teaching, and independence are all necessary for us." "Oh, then you haven't eaten instant noodles." Jiyu Jingza looked at her speechlessly. "Independence has nothing to do with eating junk food. I only eat local food when I go out. I won't eat instant noodles." "Phut. Independence is always regretful if you haven't eaten instant noodles." Seeing Lin Che's disdainful look, Jiyu Jingza glared at her. She still had the cheek to say it so proudly. Laziness and bad habits had become something she was proud of. He also felt strange. Why was he so worried about this lazy and naughty little girl? He actually ran so far away to look for her. But at that time, he only felt that someone was telling him that she had something to do and that he had to come here. If he didn't, he would feel bad. It was as if he was destined to miss something if he didn't come. He had this inexplicable worry and uneasiness in his heart. So after listening to her call, he immediately asked someone to arrange the itinerary. Grandma looked at the two of them. "Then, Grandma will go and cook. You two can talk here. Grandma, let me help you." Lin Che glared at Jiyu Jingza and wanted to go out. Jiyu Jingza frowned. Why was this girl running away? Grandma quickly turned around with a smile. "All right, you haven't seen each other for a few days. You must have a lot to talk about. You don't know how to use our food, so you don't have to help. Grandma will do it." Jiyu Jingza said, "It's not that she doesn't know how to use it. She doesn't know how to cook at all." As he said this, he grabbed Lin Che's wrist forcefully and glared at her, not letting her run away. "Come back here. What's wrong with talking to me?" She still wanted to run away. No way. Chapter 299. Lin Che was dragged back. Grandma smiled as she looked at the two of them. She opened the door and walked out. Ah! Grandma! Lin Che watched her leave speechlessly. Jiyu Jingze grabbed her wrist, so she could only step back and look at Jiyu Jingze speechlessly. Jiyu Jingze smiled devilishly and pulled her into his arms. He wrapped the small body in his arms and looked down at her, making it impossible for her to escape. What? What are you doing? Lin Che looked outside in fear. Grandma was still there. If she saw him hugging her like this, it would be embarrassing. Jiyu Jingze lowered his head and frowned. Why did you run away? I'm not that scary to let you run so fast. I didn't mean that, Lin Che said hurriedly. Why did I run away? I wanted to help Grandma cook. You didn't run away. You've been avoiding me since I came. Tell me, what's wrong? Why are you suddenly avoiding me? Jiyu Jingze sensed that something was wrong and looked down at her. Being stared at by his sharp gaze, Lin Che felt as if she had nowhere to run. She crossed her legs awkwardly and didn't know what to say. I didn't run away. I was just bored at home and called Grandma. I missed her, so I wanted to come here to visit. Lin Che continued to avoid Jiyu Jingze's gaze as she spoke. She felt that she couldn't lie when he stared at her like that. But how could she say that because of the news that he was with another woman, she became very sentimental and actually felt jealous? Actually, he and that woman hadn't reached that stage yet. She just had her own emotions and she didn't want to tell him about them. Jiyu Jingze continued to stare at her slightly nervous face. Narrowing his eyes, he suddenly lifted her chin with his fingertips and pinched it tightly. Tell me the truth. As Jiyu Jingze spoke, he kissed her lips as if he was punishing her. Lin Che's eyes widened. She remembered that Grandma was still outside and could come in at any time. She hurriedly stretched out her fists and punched his chest. The tip of the tongue also avoided his pursuit and kept running. Jiyu Jingze was even angrier when he saw that she still dared to run away. He bit her lip. Lin Che hurriedly said, No. Jiyu Jingze. Grandma. Jiyu Jingze's voice became hoarse. He only felt that there was something swimming around, an unsuppressible heat flow from the lower part of his body. Previously, because Lin Che was injured, he didn't dare to touch her casually for several days. After that, he went abroad directly and didn't touch her for many days. His body had long since accumulated energy and was ready to strike. Now that he was hugging her, he could feel her body stirring because of him. How could he hold himself back? Lowering his head, he looked at her with misty eyes and said calmly, Tell me, do you still dare to run? No. I don't dare. A wise man submits to circumstances. At this time, how could she stupidly go against him? He stared at the little woman, not believing her words. It would be strange if this woman was really so obedient one day. However, looking outside, he knew that it wasn't the right time. Just now, he was just stirred up. It wasn't that he couldn't hold himself back. He lowered his head and bit her lip, entangling himself with her again. After forcefully kissing her for a while, he finally let go of her completely. Fiddling with her clothes, he tied them up again before tapping her nose. If you're so naughty next time, just you wait. Lin Che's lips turned red from his kisses, and he looked at him with a flushed face. If he punished anyone who made a mistake like this, who knew how many women would be willing to make a terrible mistake for him? That kiss just now was really too ecstatic, but Grandma was still outside, and the soundproofing here was probably not good. She was only worried that she couldn't control her voice just now. If someone heard her, she would really be too embarrassed to face anyone. Luckily, Grandma didn't seem to have any reaction. She sighed and looked at Jiyu Jingze speechlessly. After a while, she heard Grandma calling from outside, Xiaoche, Jingze, come out and eat. Grandma wasn't really a pedantic person. Although she was old, she was still an experienced person. What were the young couple doing inside? Of course, she wouldn't barge in directly. So, after she finished cooking, she called out to them from outside. Lin Che quickly lowered her head and adjusted her clothes. Jiyu Jingze also stood up from where he was sitting. Lin Che patted her face to wake herself up. Then, she responded to Grandma's voice, opened the door and walked out. "Grandma, so fast," she said with a smile. Jiyu Jingze followed behind her. Because the house was a little low, he had to be careful as he walked, lest he hit his head. Grandma smiled at the two of them. "There's not much food, so I made 2 dishes. You guys just have to make do with it." Of course, Lin Che didn't mind. She was not picky at all as long as she had something to eat. But she looked up at Jiyu Jingze worriedly. Even during normal times, there were a few different dishes in the house, and they were very exquisite. She was afraid that he wouldn't like it. Especially since these farm dishes didn't look very good. But Jiyu Jingze only smiled and sat down. "It's very good. Grandma, you should eat too." "Okay, I'll eat too." Grandma scooped rice for the two of them and said with a smile, "It's just been washed, but it's not sterilized. I know that your house needs to be sterilized." Chapter 300. Jiyu Jingze raised his head and said, "There are many people in the house, so it's sterilized. We're all family, so it's okay if we don't sterilize it. Grandma, don't worry about me. I can do anything." Grandma said, "It's okay. We're all family. If you're not used to it, you must tell me." "No, I'm used to it. Grandma, you don't have to worry about it," Jiyu Jingze said as he took the bowl and started eating. Actually, Jiyu Jingze came so fast that Grandma didn't have time to get new utensils. The bowls and chopsticks were still old. The bowls were a little broken and there were scratches on the sides. She knew that Jiyu Jingze had never used such bowls in the past. But Jiyu Jingze didn't care at all. He continued eating elegantly and was full of praise for the food. He said to Grandma, "Grandma, the food is delicious." "Ah, as long as you don't mind. How can it be better than the food cooked by a professional chef?" "No, of course it's better than the food cooked by a professional chef. They're used to it and it tastes the same. It's not as humane as Grandma's. Look, Jingze is so good at talking. Grandma is so happy to hear it. Eat more if you like it." Lin Che smiled and also picked up the bowl to eat. The 3 of them ate simple dishes here. Lin Che ate very quickly as usual. Grandma watched the 2 of them eat. The house suddenly became lively, and she felt very happy. As for Jiyu Jingze, no matter where he went, he was so elegant. Even though he was holding a worn-out bowl, he didn't look shabby at all. Instead, he looked like a noble prince. With a warm smile on his face, he chewed and swallowed slowly. His slender fingers held the chopsticks, and his movements were slow and steady, which made people feel that there was nothing wrong with his behavior. After dinner, the sky was already blue. The sun had set and it was getting dark. Grandma cleared the bowls and chopsticks. Lin Che got up to help. Jiyu Jingze looked around the room. Grandma looked at Jiyu Jingze and smiled. She asked what she wanted to ask. "Well, Jingze, are you here to take Lin Che back?" Jiyu Jingze raised his head and looked at Grandma. Grandma looked at Lin Che. She looked reluctant. From her tone, it was obvious that she wanted Lin Che to stay for a while. After all, he had come all the way here. Jiyu Jingze looked at Lin Che. Seeing that Lin Che had also turned his head, he smiled and said to his grandmother, "Since you're here, stay with me for a few days." When Grandma heard this, the wrinkles on her face seemed to open up. "Really?" However, she was still a little worried. She looked at the 2 of them and said, "Will you feel uncomfortable staying here tonight? Or are you going to stay in a hotel? However, there aren't any good hotels for you to stay in." Jiyu Jingze looked around and said with a smile, "We'll stay here." Lin Che was stunned and looked at Jiyu Jingze in surprise. "He wants to live here?" This place was really shabby. He was afraid that even a person with such high standards would not know if he could still sleep here. Jiyu Jingze looked at Lin Che and said again, "It's okay, Grandma. I'll stay here with Lin Che. Since I'm here, why should I stay in a hotel?" Hearing this, Grandma was even happier. On the other hand, Lin Che immediately said, "But Grandma, this place can't be used, right?" This was a room where the living room and kitchen were connected, and there was a bedroom inside. Hearing this, Grandma hurriedly said, "It's okay. You can stay here. There's another room outside. No one has been living in that room for years. It's the room that your mother used to live in when she was still alive." Hearing this, Lin Che looked at Grandma and said, "Mom used to live in that room?" "Yes. After your mother grew up, we made a room for her. It used to be a place for cooking, but when she grew older, she wanted to live by herself, so we had to make a room for her." Lin Che said, "Then, Grandma, let's stay over there." "No, no," Grandma quickly said. "No one has lived there for many years. It's humid and the room is even smaller than this one." "It's okay, Grandma. I want to stay over there. I want to stay in the room that Mom used to live in." Lin Che thought calmly. This was probably the closest she could get to her mother. Jiyu Jingze looked at Lin Che and stared at her absent-minded little face. He also raised his head and said, "Grandma, let us stay over there." Grandma looked back and forth between the two of them. In the end, she nodded calmly and said, "Okay, I'll go over and tidy up the room for you." In a short while, Grandma had already tidied up the room. Actually, even though she couldn't help it, she would still tidy up the room. She just needed to lick the bedding and clean up the dust before she could move in. Lin Che and Jiyu Jingze went in together. It was indeed smaller than the other room, but it could still accommodate 2 people. Lin Che looked at Jiyu Jingze and felt that this place was a little condescending for him. After all, he was such a high and mighty person. He had never suffered like this before. She couldn't bear to let such a noble person like him stay in such a small room with her. In her heart, he had always been so perfect. No matter how annoyed she was with him, she still felt that he was the best and the most beautiful one. Thus, she couldn't bear to let him live a bad life, so she had to force herself. She said, "Why don't you stay in a hotel? There are hotels here too. I saw one when I passed by. It's probably not as good as the 7-star hotel your family owns, but it's still bigger than this place." Jiyu Jingze frowned and turned to stare at Lin Che. "You really don't want me to stay with you that much?" Jiyu Jingze's gaze turned cold and he glared at Lin Che. Lin Che quickly said, "No, no. That's not what I meant. I meant that this place is a little dirty and a little small. You won't be used to it, right?" Jiyu Jingze flipped over and fell on the squeaky bed. He said, "I'm used to it. Come here." Lin Che looked at him. "But you," Jiyu Jingze leaned against the bed and said, "I'll get used to it after a few days. I'm not so pretentious that I have to stay in a 7-star hotel. It's fine as long as it's clean. If I stay in a hotel, Grandma will think that I'm an outsider. We're all family. It's okay to stay here. Who would want to stay in a hotel when they visit their relatives? I'll stay here if I can." Lin Che opened her mouth and couldn't close it for a long time. She looked at Jiyu Jingze and said, "You, Jiyu Jingze." She smiled and looked at him. Once again, she felt that he was really nice and considerate. Actually, as others had said, with his status, he didn't need to think for others and think from their point of view most of the time. However, he had always been so heartwarming. Jiyu Jingze frowned. Seeing that she still didn't come over, he waved his hand and said, "Didn't I tell you to come over?" Lin Che still stood there and didn't go over. What was he going to do? What was he going to do? Chapter 301. Jiyu Jingze said, "Why are you looking at me like that? I'm not going to eat you up." Seeing how slow Lin Che was, who obviously didn't want to come over, Jiyu Jingze's face darkened again. He looked at Lin Che with a gaze as sharp as a knife. Lin Che was still standing there, hesitating. Looking at his gaze, she took a few steps forward slowly. Jiyu Jingze finally lost his patience. He reached out and pulled her onto the bed. Lin Che fell onto the bed. Jiyu Jingze took the opportunity to hold her hands, put them on his chest, and looked down at Lin Che. His gaze was like a torch, burning Lin Che's eyes. "Why, are you afraid of me because I hurt you last time?" he said. No. Lin Che didn't feel much the last time. She felt much better the next day. Although she still felt a little uncomfortable, it didn't hurt anymore. After all, the tear wasn't too severe. He was just too concerned and worried. Jiyu Jingze was still holding her hands. Then why are you always avoiding me? No. I'm not. Lin Che murmured. Jiyu Jingze's gaze sharpened. He stared at Lin Che. After a while, when he saw that Lin Che's cheeks were slowly turning red from being stared at, he slowly put his hand into her clothes from below. Lin Che quickly grabbed his hand and looked into his eyes. Jiyu Jingze's heart ached when he saw how nervous she was. He kissed her lips lightly. It was soft, as if he was coaxing her. Be good, I'll be gentle. Jiyu Jingze slowly held her hand. Lin Che's lips moved. Jiyu Jingze was still murmuring in her ear, really, gently. It won't hurt at all. This time, we'll do it slowly. He stretched out his hand first. He was careful as if it was his first time. Only when she accepted it did he move closer, bit by bit. The bed kept creaking, which made Lin Che even more nervous. There was a feeling that this bed couldn't hold two people. Jiyu Jingze was gentle when he said he was gentle. However, when he was fierce, it was still frightening. That night, accompanied by this voice, Jiyu Jingze was finally relieved of his yearning for the past few days. Hugging Lin Che, he felt that she wasn't hurt this time and felt a lot more relaxed. She patted him a few times and said, get lost, don't say any more. Jiyu Jingze kissed her lips. Isn't that a compliment for a woman? It's like saying to a man, you're so big. Get lost. I'm not a hooligan. Jiyu Jingze ignored her shyness and continued, but the problem between us is that I'm too big and you're too small. So, our strengths have become our obstacles, right? Jiyu Jingze. Lin Che raised his head and shouted. Ha 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 ha. Jiyu Jingze laughed heartily. He was laughing so hard that even he found it strange. He didn't say anything, but he found it extremely amusing. On the other hand, Lin Che had rested. Although his body was still sore, he still prepared to get up and wash up. There weren't any bathrooms in the house. Grandma boiled water for her own baths. It wasn't appropriate to boil so much water in the middle of the night. Lin Che thought for a while and boiled some water quickly. He could only make do with a bath. After mixing the temperature of the hot and cold water, Lin Che looked at Jiyu Jingze and said, there's no way to take a bath. Just rinse and wipe yourself. Jiyu Jingze walked over and nodded. It wasn't that he couldn't make do. Without any complaints, he went over and wiped himself. Since he couldn't wipe himself, he called Lin Che over and asked him for help. Lin Che pouted and said, forget it if you can't wipe yourself. Jiyu Jingze looked at her from the corner of his eyes. Why? This sweat is all because of you. Why aren't you helping me wipe myself? Who was he sweating for? She didn't ask him to use so much strength. It took so long, and it was still so hot. Jiyu Jingze reached out to wipe himself, but he really couldn't. Lin Che was just fooling around. It wasn't that he didn't want to help. Seeing that he was still trying hard to wipe himself, she walked over and took a towel, dipped it in water, and helped him wipe himself. As he sat there, his strong back gave people a sense of security. Lin Che wiped him carefully, one stroke at a time. Jiyu Jingze stood there, feeling it. He smiled. He felt that this simple feeling was very heartwarming. Even though the room was simple and there was nothing, the two of them felt like they were helping each other in times of need. After Jiyu Jingze was done, Lin Che boiled some water to wash himself. After a simple bath, his body felt much more comfortable. The cities in the south weren't as cold as in the north. After the two were done, they lay on the bed together. Jiyu Jingze suddenly felt that the atmosphere was very good. He hugged Lin Che and looked around the small room. Actually, the size of the room didn't matter. What mattered was who the person beside you was. If the person beside you was someone you didn't like, then even if you were living in a castle, it would still be troublesome. But if the person beside you was coincidentally her, then even if you were living on the streets, you could still have a moment of happiness. Lin Che lay there, using his arm as a pillow. I'll just make do for one night. You'll go back tomorrow, right? Jiyu Jingze frowned. Are you in such a hurry to chase me away? Lin Che thought, why did he misinterpret her words so honestly? No way. I just feel that you're so busy and this place is so hard that it's not suitable for you to stay. Jiyu Jingzi said, are you going back too? Lin Che shook her head. I just arrived. I'm planning to stay for a few days. The crew has already applied for leave. Anyway, if I leave so soon, Grandma will be very disappointed. Jiyu Jingzi heard her say this and looked down at her. Then I'll stay for a few days too. Ah, Lin Che said hurriedly. Then what about your job? I'm the boss. Of course I'll go if I want to. If I don't want to, I won't. So willful, Lin Che asked again, but it's so bad here. I'm afraid you'll feel uncomfortable. Didn't I say that when I was teaching in the past, it was even harder than this? Sometimes, I didn't even have the chance to take a bath because it was very poor and dry. There wasn't even enough water to drink. I might not even be able to wipe myself today. I had to save water even to wash my face. Wow, you've been to such a difficult place. Lin Che raised his head and looked at Jiyu Jingzi with admiration. Jiyu Jingzi nodded. My grandfather said that only after experiencing such poverty can one understand the meaning of wealth. Then why are you still so obsessed with cleanliness and so troublesome? Lin Che asked, puzzled. He wakes up at 6 every day and will be up soon. Really? So punctual. Why are you up so early? I wanted to see the sun, so I got up. She felt that the morning air was too good and the chirping of the birds outside was especially pleasant, so she woke up early to watch the sunrise. The people in town woke up early and rode their electric scooters to buy breakfast before going to work and school. Seeing Lin Che and his grandmother here, they quickly stopped and said with a smile, Ah, Grandma Chiu, we have guests. Looking at Lin Che, the eyes of the young man in his 20s lit up. Ah, you look so familiar. Grandma chuckled. What? She's my granddaughter, not a guest. Oh, really? She's so beautiful. I thought she was a celebrity, ha ha ha. After a while, another neighbor ran over with a smile and asked, Old Madam Chiu, why did a row of cars come in yesterday? Who were they? Grandma looked at Lin Che with a smile and said, It's Xiaoche's husband. He's here to see Xiaoche. Oh, really? That's so cool. That's right. Otherwise, I'd be relieved if Xiaoche married well. Grandma touched Lin Che's hand and said. Lin Che smiled at his grandmother. Someone leaned on the wall and looked at Lin Che. She smiled and said, Oh, Grandma Chiu, they all said that your granddaughter is here and she looks like a fairy. Is this her? It was a small place and news spread quickly. In a short while, it seemed that everyone was looking at them. Lin Che looked at the people who were looking at him embarrassedly. How was she a fairy? The woman leaning on the wall looked at Lin Che and was stunned. After looking at him for a long time, she said, She looks really good. What's her name? My name is Lin Che. Oh, what a nice name. Do you have a boyfriend? He's my son. He just graduated from university and he looks good too. Let me introduce him to you. Grandma quickly said, That's enough. Our Xiaoche is married. Really? Just then, someone coughed behind them. Lin Che turned around and saw Jiyu Jingzi standing there, looking at Lin Che and his grandmother. He didn't change his clothes. The clothes he wore yesterday were a little wrinkled, but they didn't look sloppy on him. Instead, they looked fashionable. Grandma smiled and said to the woman, See? This is our Xiaoche's husband's family. The woman stared at Jiyu Jingzi, her eyes almost popping out of her head. There was really such a gentleman in this world. He didn't just appear on television. She looked at Jiyu Jingzi and Lin Che enviously. Her eyes looked back and forth between them before she said, TSK, they're both good-looking people. If they have children in the future, who knows how good they'll look. Chapter 303. Hearing this, Lin Che turned around and looked at Jiyu Jingzi. He narrowed his eyes and walked to Lin Che's side calmly. Lin Che looked up and asked, "You're up?" Jiyu Jingza patted her head and said, "Silly, I'm standing here. I just got up. Did you see a ghost?" Lin Che pouted and covered her head. "You're so annoying. I was just greeting you." Jiyu Jingza just smiled and glared at her. The people sitting opposite them looked at the two of them enviously. When they stared at Jiyu Jingza, they were all praising him in their hearts. "Aya, we've never seen such a good-looking person here. Old Madam Chiu, you're so lucky." Grandma also looked up at the two of them. As someone who had been through it, she naturally knew what the best state of a couple was. When two people fooled around unscrupulously like this, it was the most loving moment. Because it seemed to have become normal, and they weren't doing anything deliberately. Grandma was very happy. She looked at the two of them and said, "Come and eat." Jiyu Jingza ate breakfast with the two of them. After that, he walked around the place and looked around. Lin Che just looked at Jiyu Jingza, who was strolling outside and making phone calls from time to time, and helped Grandma pack things. Grandma looked at Lin Che and said with a smile, "Jingza is really a good person. I didn't have much contact with him when I was in B City, but he's willing to live here for you and doesn't mind anything. He's really good." Lin Che looked outside gently. "Yeah, he's always been good." Grandma smiled and said, "That's how a couple should be together. The more I look at Jingza, the more I like him. He has a good personality and most importantly, he doesn't mind us at all. You're luckier than your mother." Sigh, "Grandma, didn't my mom tell you how she met my dad? The strange thing is, I didn't see any of my dad in the photos. Didn't she know my dad when she was here?" Grandma said, "That's right. After your mom ran away from home and went to B City, she met your dad. We've never heard of him before. Did my mother run away from home to B City?" Lin Che had never heard his mother mention his past. Even now, he still didn't know why his mother had become a mistress in other people's mouths, and his mother hadn't even offered a single explanation. Grandma said, the people in the photo were all her teachers. One of them, whose surname was Lu, had always thought highly of your mother and recommended her to go to university in B City. Your mother finally got in, but unfortunately, our family didn't have the money to pay for her to go to university. We were very poor back then, so we wanted her to go to university nearby, but your mother was very stubborn. In the end, she went to B City alone and didn't ask for a single cent from our family. At that time, your mother would still call us if there was nothing important, but gradually, the calls decreased. Until she passed away, she didn't say what happened to her. Grandma sighed as she thought about it. I always thought that if we had let her go to B City and sold everything we had to let her go to university, maybe things wouldn't have turned out this way. She must have suffered a lot in the outside world. That's why she used up all her energy to pass away so early. Lin Che held his grandmother's hand and said mildly, "No one thought that the final outcome would be like this. At that time, everyone was poor, and Grandma didn't want it to be like this. In the end, people from small places don't understand these things. Grandma wasn't educated all her life, and when she understood, it was too late for regrets. But Grandma believes that your mother isn't a bad person. They say that your mother became someone's mistress, but I don't believe them. Your mother must have fallen into someone's trap. Yeah, I don't believe it either." The two chatted for a while before Lin Che said, "Then, Grandma, can I bring that photo back? I don't have a single photo of my mother at home." "Of course you can. Take it and keep it for Grandma. Grandma is old. How many years can I keep it?" "How can that be? Grandma's health is better than mine. You'll definitely live to a ripe old age." At noon, the three of them had lunch together. Jiyu Jingza suddenly said, "Grandma, I've asked someone to prepare a house nearby. It's a little inconvenient for you to live here. Why don't you move there tomorrow and enjoy your old age?" Grandma was very surprised to hear that. "Ah, it's okay. I'm already old, and I can still live here for a few years. I'll just live here. The place is just enough for me. Grandma, although you're still healthy, it's not convenient for you to live here. It's too tiring to go to the bathroom or the kitchen. The place I've found for you is not far from here. It's the house behind. It's not very big, But it's very suitable for you. If you move there, the neighbors won't be far from you, and you'll be familiar with the place. But it's too wasteful. I don't need such a nice place, Grandma said. Jiyu Jingza said, Lin Che works hard to make money so that his family can have a good life. Otherwise, we'll be enjoying ourselves at home while the elders are still suffering. How can we be at ease? Lin Che lives far away, and he can't accompany you every day. If you live a better, more comfortable, and less tired life, Lin Che will be at ease in City B, right? Hearing that, Lin Che looked at Grandma and nodded. Yes, Grandma. Otherwise, I'll always want to visit you. How can I work peacefully? Hearing their words, Grandma's eyes became moist. But in the end, she still agreed. After that, Jiyu Jingza took Lin Che and Grandma to see the new house in the back. It was located behind the town. It was indeed not far from where they were. It was a newly developed area, with a row of small buildings in the front and a normal apartment in the back. Jiyu Jingza chose a small building in the front. It had 2 floors and was more than 200 square meters. The decoration was already done, and they could move in at any time. Jiyu Jingza said, I've asked someone to arrange the bedrooms downstairs. This way, Grandma doesn't have to run up and down the stairs. Grandma still felt that it was a waste. She said from time to time, this place is too big. It's too nice. Lin Che looked at Jiyu Jingza. He had already arranged for someone to renovate it. Standing there, he looked at Lin Che and said, Why are you staring at me? Lin Che was just thinking that he had been doing this the whole time. She thought that he was dealing with work, so she kept calling him, but it turned out that he was asking someone to help find a place for Grandma. Chapter 304. Without a sound, he had already done everything, and he had arranged everything so well. Lin Che looked at Jiyu Jingza and felt that she was going to be infatuated with him. Why did she have to meet such a good husband? Why did you suddenly help Grandma with these things? Why didn't you tell me? Because your IQ is limited and you can't think of so many things. Of course I have to think more, he said as he rolled his eyes at her. Lin Che pouted. I wasn't so silly before. You must have told me too much and that's why I'm getting more and more silly. Don't you know that people need encouragement? You don't encourage me and always belittle me. Of course I'll be silly. Forget it. You don't have to be so smart all the time when you're with me, Jiyu Jingza said. The thing is, you don't have anything to encourage. Lin Che really wanted to tear his mouth apart. This man was good in every way. He was nice to others and was so gentlemanly. Why was he so mean to her? He kept poking at her sore spot. Lin Che looked at him and thought that he was right. Ever since she got together with him, he had already thought of all her life problems for her. But what if she didn't get together with him? He had raised her to be so silly. If she met someone else in the future, wouldn't she be tricked to death? She sighed and looked at Jiyu Jingza speechlessly. After that, Jiyu Jingza asked people to start moving things for Grandma. Although Grandma's place was simple, she had lived there for a long time and had a lot of things. Jiyu Jingza asked a few people to pack things up while the others tidied up the new place. In an instant, it was so noisy that the people around couldn't help but come over to watch. The neighbors asked one after another, Old Madam Chiu, where are you moving to? Grandma said happily to her neighbors, My grandson-in-law bought me an apartment behind. I'm going to live there. It's that newly developed apartment. It's so expensive. Your grandson-in-law is so generous with you. Yeah, the child is so filial. I really don't know what to say. The neighbors watched noisily as the people moved things back and forth. It was a lively scene. Some people were wondering what these people were doing. They all wore similar clothes and looked cold. They were tall and strong, and they listened to Jiyu Jingza's orders. Finally, everything was moved over. Jiyu Jingza's men cleaned up the place. There was not a speck of dust on the place. They even hired a nanny. The nanny didn't stay here all the time, in case Grandma was not used to it. She just came to clean things up every day. Lin Che helped them pack up their luggage and rested outside with his grandmother. Grandma smiled and said, I've never lived in such a nice place in my life. It's all thanks to little Che's good fortune. Lin Che said, Grandma, this is nothing. I'll earn more money in the future. I'll give it all to you to spend. Forget it. You have to save it yourself. I didn't raise you, but I have to eat and drink from you. It's not right. Lin Che said, Grandma, don't say that. Although you didn't raise me, you raised my mother. This is the power of blood, this is the inheritance. My mother didn't raise you for a day, but you raised her for so many years with great difficulty. We don't have to be so calculative between us. Familial love isn't a debt that can be repaid over and over again, and we don't have to be calculative about every little thing. If we have to be calculative about feelings, then that would be too sad, right? Grandma's eyes became even more wet. She looked at Lin Che and held her hand. Little Che, your mother taught you well. Lin Che smiled with her grandmother. She turned around and saw Jiyu Jingze staring at Lin Che. Lin Che was embarrassed. She turned around but couldn't help sneaking glances at the man behind her. He just stared deeply at this little woman. His expression changed slightly. He didn't say anything for a while. Everything was ready. Grandma was going to cook here. It was the first time they were having dinner. Lin Che went out to get things and saw Jiyu Jingze following her. Lin Che said, All right, you can rest. I'll do it. Jiyu Jingze said, All right, you don't have to do anything. I'll help you with what you're getting. Lin Che smiled and pointed at the plate on the cabinet. Jiyu Jingze could easily reach it with his hand. It was good to be tall. Jiyu Jingze said, It'd be great if you could talk like that when you're facing me. What? What you said to Grandma just now. Lin Che was embarrassed. If Jiyu Jingze heard what she said just now, he might think that she was being pretentious. What's wrong? I said it casually. Also, when you're facing me, you talk like that. How dare you say that to me? Humph. But I didn't expect you to have some awareness. I underestimated you before, Jiyu Jingze said. What do you mean? She asked him. Her eyes blinked as if she didn't understand what he said. Jiyu Jingze lowered his head and sighed. His gaze was fixed on her small face. Without saying anything, he looked up and said, Nothing. Lin Che said, Really, you didn't finish your sentence. If I knew you were such an idiot, I wouldn't have said the other half. Did this woman understand that he was complimenting her? She was so stupid that it hurt. Lin Che snorted. She couldn't be bothered to argue with him anymore. She looked up at him and said, But I still have to thank you for thinking so much for my grandma. Jiyu Jingze said, It's what I should do. How could it be? It's what I should do. But I'm your husband. He tapped her head and said, Of course, I can't just watch my grandmother live in such a simple and crude place. You're right. Even though we've just reunited with her, she's still your grandmother. We can't just watch her suffer here with a clear conscience. So, it's only right for us to do what we can. That saying is right. Our parents are still struggling, so what reason do we have to talk about poetry and faraway places, right? Lin Che nodded vigorously and looked at Jiyu Jingze gratefully. Yes, and there's a reason why Grandma and I just met each other. These reasons are deeply rooted and have existed for a long time. Sometimes, we can't look into them. Okay. Let's go in and eat, he said as he hugged her shoulders. He always knew that Lin Che was a kind girl. Jiyu Jingze looked at Lin Che and couldn't help but smile. They stayed in the new room for the night. After staying for another 2 days, Lin Che finally had to leave and return to City B. Lin Che said goodbye to Grandma. Grandma smiled and said to her, Grandma is fine here. Don't worry. Do your job well and treat Jingze well. Grandma can only rest assured if you're all fine. Lin Che nodded vigorously. I'll come to see you often in the future. Okay. Grandma looks for you on TV every day. Okay. I'll definitely appear on TV more often. Lin Che smiled and clenched her little fists. Chapter 305. The two of them said goodbye to their grandmother and walked out together. Jiyu Jingze's car was already prepared. If they took his car, they wouldn't have to catch the train anymore. They headed straight to the airport in the provincial capital. As they watched them leave, the people around them watched enviously as Cho Shuyun moved to a bigger house. They sighed in their hearts. However, she had a good granddaughter. She was enjoying a good life in her old age and had made up for all the hardships she had suffered in the past. Lin Che and Jiyu Jingze boarded the plane together. On the plane, Lin Che was still looking at the photo. Jiyu Jingze looked at her and said, "Where's your mother's grave?" Lin Che replied, "It's at Nanshan Public Cemetery. I visit it twice a year. Bring me along next time," he said to Lin Che. Lin Che raised his head and stared at Jiyu Jingze with wide eyes. Jiyu Jingze said, "You're married to me after all. Shouldn't you bring me to meet my mother-in-law?" He would never admit that the Lin family was his father-in-law. But Lin Che's mother was another story. Looking at the photo, he had a vague feeling that his mother was definitely not a mistress like the rumors said. There must have been some unavoidable reason for such rumors to be spread. After they got off the plane, the Jiyu family sent a message saying that they were still preparing for Jiyu Jingyan's wedding and asked Jiyu Jingze to go home. Jiyu Jingze said to Lin Che, "Let's go home. I think we'll be staying at the Jiyu family's place tonight." Lin Che nodded and left willfully for a few days. He asked Jiyu Jingze to follow him and stay in the small town for a few days. Lin Che wondered if he was delayed. However, Jiyu Jingze didn't seem to care at all. Lin Che could only raise his head and look at Jiyu Jingze apologetically. Meanwhile, at the Jiyu family's place, Lu Chuxia was a guest at the Jiyu family's place. Because the Lu family was going to have a marriage alliance with the Jiyu family, she had been spending a lot of time in the past few days. Unfortunately, Jiyu Jingze wasn't around. Jiyu Jingyan and Mu Wanqing came out together. Seeing that Lu Chuxia was there, Mu Wanqing said to Jiyu Jingyan, "Chuxia and Beichen are really close. She's so concerned about her brother's marriage." Jiyu Jingyan didn't mean to say that she cared about Jiyu Jingze, not her. Mu Wanqing didn't hate Lu Chuxia. She liked her brother very much. She just complained about Lu Beichen. He was about to get married, but he only showed up a few times. As a little sister, she's even more attentive than her brother. Mu Wanqing said. Jiyu Jingyan smiled. As the heir of the Lu family, I'm sure he'll be much busier than Chuxia. Isn't his marriage already set? Mu Wanqing said, "I quite like both you and Beichen. You two are a good match. His family background is good, and he's a good person. He's a little frivolous, but among these young masters, he's one of the rare ones who admits to his work. It's also good that you two start your own company. In the future, if you two work hard and help each other, it's also a good thing." Jiyu Jingyan said, "Mom, I don't need a man to care about me. It's just a marriage. It's not a big deal. He's busy, and so am I. We're doing fine. I'm not a housewife who has nothing to do at home. I don't need someone to accompany me." Mu Wanqing said, "You're a girl. Don't be so headstrong." Jiyu Jingyan said, "I like it that way. What's the point of staying at home? I like to go out and work." Mu Wanqing sighed as she looked at Jiyu Jingyan. Jiyu Jingyan watched Mu Wanqing leave and then looked at Lu Chuxia. Yes, as a little sister, she was more attentive than her brother. Jiyu Jingyan thought that this was the marriage that she wanted. She couldn't blame anyone, and she wouldn't blame anyone. Jiyu Jingyan and Lu Beichen had been in contact with each other since they were in high school. However, at that time, it was only because they had been competing for the first place in the school. Jiyu Jingyan, on the other hand, was a person who wouldn't show weakness. She had been suppressing Lu Beichen, from high school to high school, making him the second child for 3 years. At that time, they were friends and enemies. She, Fu Chenxi, Lu Beichen, Wan Qingshan, and Gu Junyan. The 5 of them were always together, almost inseparable. However, no one knew that she hid her feelings for Lu Beichen. Later on, because Fu Chenxi's family was poor, she was despised by the Lu family and left Lu Beichen. Only then did Jiyu Jingyan and Lu Beichen have a future. Someone once said to her, "Jiyu Jingyan, you're really a fool. Since you knew that you were going to be with Beichen, Why didn't you give in to him a little more during high school and let him try to be the boss? After being abused by you for 3 years, after they got married, he would definitely remember you all the time. Someone even said to her, Jingyan, after getting married, you can't be as competitive as you used to be. You have to lower your head in front of your husband more. Jiyu Jingyan knew that she and Liu Beichen were very compatible, whether it was in bed, work, or life. However, when it came to love, they were both very competitive and didn't know how to show weakness. Jiyu Jingyan could only smile at others and say that she was such a person. However, she had never told anyone else that no matter how weak she was, that man would not change his mind about her. Because in his heart, the best woman was Fu Chenxi, and she, Jiyu Jingyan, would never be Fu Chenxi. Jiyu Jingyan looked at Lu Chuxia. Chuxia, I think you should give up as soon as possible. I don't think you can move my second brother. He's too stubborn, Lu Chuxia said. Lu Chuxia said, I'm also a very stubborn person. Let's see whose brain is more stubborn. Lu Chuxia thought that this was her only chance. The person by his side was no longer Mo Hualing, but a woman who wasn't good enough for him. If she couldn't get him now and one day he would be separated from this woman, all the other socialites would go crazy. She had to strike first. Otherwise, when there were so many competitors, would she still have a chance? At this moment, a servant from the Jiyu family said that second young master and young madam had returned. Lu Chuxia was sure that Lin Che had come with them. As she said that, she stood up and followed Jiyu Jingyan out of the room. Jiyu Jingyan looked at her. My sister-in-law is with second brother too. Lu Chuxia said, that's why I want to go and see. She wanted to see what kind of person Lin Che was. How could he make Jiyu Jingzi give up Mo Hualing and marry her? Although Jiyu Jingzi was forced by his family, she also wanted to see what kind of woman the Jiyu family forced him to marry. She wanted to see what kind of woman Lin Che was. Chapter 306. Jiyu Jingzi and Lin Che arrived at the Jiyu residence together. They had just gotten off the plane and both of them looked travel-worn. Jiyu Jingzi naturally held her shoulder with one hand and led her into the room. Because he had been here many times, Lin Che was already familiar with the place. After entering the house, he even greeted the servants he had met before. Second young mistress, second young master, you're back. Second young master, second young mistress, come in. Everyone welcomed the two of them into the house. Mu Wanqing walked out first and said with a smile, Little Che, you're here. Come in, come in. I heard that you went to stay at Grandma's house. How's Grandma? Lin Che replied with a smile, Grandma is fine. Thank you for your concern, Mom. Is that right? Next time, let Jingzi accompany you more. Also, don't let Jingzi stay in the office all day if he has nothing to do. Lin Che looked up at Jiyu Jingzi. He was still a little worried that he was delaying his work. He knew that Jiyu Jingzi had always been a workaholic. Perhaps he was very anxious about leaving for a few days, but he didn't want to disappoint Grandma, so he didn't leave. Jiyu Jingzi said, Mom, you'll be on her side now. Mu Wanqing harumphed at him. Just then, they heard Jiyu Jingyan's voice from inside, Second brother, you're still willing to come back? I thought you and sister-in-law went to spend some alone time together and didn't want to come back. Mu Wanqing also said to Jiyu Jingzi, oh, right, Beichen's sister is here too. You know her, Lu Chuxia. Jiyu Jingzi frowned slightly when he heard this name. Lin Che was also stunned. Lu Chuxia was actually at the Jiyu residence at this time? Jiyu Jingzi didn't say anything. When the crowd parted, Lu Chuxia and Jiyu Jingyan had already walked over. Lu Chuxia glanced over. Jiyu Jingzi stood tall, and the people around him seemed dwarfed. Needless to say, his aura was as imposing as ever. Next to him, the girl stood there. She was wearing a short red striped top. It was simple and elegant, and she was wearing wide-legged pants. Her hair was scattered around her ears, and she looked refreshing and pleasant. A light breeze blew over. It was natural that Lin Che was beautiful. Lu Chuxia had already thought about it. Otherwise, She wouldn't have become a minor celebrity and even been chosen by the Jiyu family. However, in Lu Chuxia's mind, small celebrities were products that had been meticulously sculpted. Their faces were stiff after plastic surgery. Although they were exquisite, they were all the same. But she didn't expect that Lin Che would give Lu Chuxia an unexpected feeling the moment he appeared. Lin Che didn't have the slightest feeling that he was the same as others. His appearance was unique and beautiful, but it was a beauty that could be recognized at a glance. It also had big eyes and a small face, but it was different from those plastic products. It was so unique. Lu Chuxia was stunned for a moment as she watched Jiyu Jingyan walk over with a smile. She looked at Lin Che from behind, and for a moment, she was a little angry. Why didn't she look like a vulgar woman? That would actually make her feel much better. However, she was the kind of woman that was hard to grasp, which made Lu Chuxia jealous. Impossible, she must have had plastic surgery, just that it cost a lot of money. Jiyu Jingze was so rich, it was possible for him to spend some money on her to make her look better. Lu Chuxia stood there thinking angrily. After a while, she took a step forward and continued to walk forward. Lin Che saw Lu Chuxia behind her at a glance. She walked over in a very imposing manner. He could see that she had the attitude of a rich young lady like Mo Hualing, but it was different from Mo Hualing. After all, Mo Hualing had stayed at home for too long, so she looked too leisurely. Lu Chuxia was after all a socialite, so there was a sense of professionalism in her. When Lin Che glanced over, he saw that Lu Chuxia seemed to be staring at him. When their eyes met, Lin Che felt uncomfortable and didn't look at her again. He just followed Jiyu Jingyan in first. Second brother, little sister-in-law, will you stay here tonight? Yes. That's great, little sister-in-law, help me choose a wedding dress. My eyes are blurred from looking at it. Sure, but I don't have good taste. How can that be, little sister-in-law? You look very beautiful every time you go on TV. It's all done by the stylist, Lin Che said straightforwardly. Jiyu Jingyan said, I saw the news last time too. Your dress was ruined, but you casually changed it and went on stage again. That was done by you, right? That was a coincidence. Lin Che didn't know how that news got out of hand. Jiyu Jingyan said, so after that time, people on the internet said that little sister-in-law is very fashionable. You don't have to be humble. People on the internet said all kinds of things. At this time, Lu Chuxia finally walked over. Jiyu Jingze squinted and looked at Lu Chuxia. He stood beside Lin Che and didn't seem to have any reaction. Lu Chuxia first looked at Jiyu Jingze deeply, then suddenly smiled and said to Lin Che, Miss Lin, is it? Lin Che heard Lu Chuxia's voice and turned his head. Lu Chuxia looked at Lin Che with a smile. Even though there was a smile on her face, there was no lack of belittling in her eyes. She said, hello, I'm Lu Chuxia. I don't know if Jingze has mentioned me to you. Lin Che looked at Lu Chuxia and quietly looked at her proud face. He smiled and said, hello. She raised her head and looked at Jiyu Jingze. Jiyu Jingze didn't mention Lu Chuxia to her, but without him mentioning it, she had already seen everyone's guesses on the internet. Even though the photo had been deleted as Jiyu Jingyu said, the rumors about Jiyu Jingze and Lu Chuxia would still be seen. Some people said that Jiyu Jingze was going to marry the Lu family. Why was Lu Chuxia always at Jiyu Jingze's side recently? In everyone's eyes, Jiyu Jingze was also of marriageable age, but he wasn't married yet. After all, no one knew that Jiyu Jingze had a wife like her. Jiyu Jingze looked at Lu Chuxia and said to Lin Che, this is Jingyan's sister-in-law. I haven't mentioned her to you. Jiyu Jingze looked at Lu Chuxia and explained, Lin Che and I usually don't talk about the messy relatives of the Jiyu family, so we haven't talked about it. Lu Chuxia's expression changed slightly. She had also become a messy relative. However, looking at Lin Che, Lu Chuxia still didn't show a timid expression. She just endured it and looked at Jiyu Jingze with resentment. After a while, Lu Chuxia smiled and said to Lin Che, it's okay. Anyway, we will meet often in the future. Now that we know each other, it's fine. We'll meet often. Lin Che didn't want to see her at all. Lin Che smiled and said, okay, but I'm very busy sometimes, so I don't come here often. Chapter 307. Lu Chuxia said, "Really? Then I'll come more often, especially recently." As she said this, she glanced at Jiyu Jingze meaningfully. Because they were in front of so many people, Lu Chuxia couldn't say anything else. She looked away after glancing at him. Mu Wanqing said from behind, all right. Let's not stand here and talk. Let's go in and talk." The group went in together. Jiyu Jingze said to Lin Che calmly, "You can take a seat first. Just stay with mother. I'm going to see grandfather." "Okay." Lin Che waved at Jiyu Jingze, telling him to do whatever he wanted and not to worry about her. Seeing Jiyu Jingze leave, Jiyu Jingyan thought for a moment and followed him. Jiyu Jingze walked along the corridor towards Jiyu Shenda's room. Grandfather Jiyu had been living in seclusion and was rarely seen at home. But every time he came, he had to go and greet him as a form of etiquette. Jiyu Jingyan looked at Jiyu Jingze and called, "Second brother." Jiyu Jingze turned around. "What's the matter?" "Nothing." Jiyu Jingyan followed him and said to him, "Has Chuxia been pestering you lately?" "It's okay," Jiyu Jingze said, "she can do whatever she wants. I've tried to persuade her, but she wouldn't listen. I think it makes sense. She's a person who won't give up until she hits the wall. Let her hit the wall herself. In the end, she'll stop when her head bleeds." Jiyu Jingze said, "Okay. But if sister-in-law finds out, she'll be unhappy, right?" "I didn't tell her," Jiyu Jingze said. "Why?" Jiyu Jingyan looked up and asked. Jiyu Jingze said, "It's unnecessary." Jiyu Jingyan paused and nodded. He was right. Since it was confirmed that nothing bad would happen, there was no need to tell Lin Che. It would cause more trouble. Jiyu Jingyan said, "Okay. I'll leave first. Second brother, you can go and see grandfather." "Okay." Jiyu Jingyan knew that Jiyu Jingze was a man of few words. She looked at him speechlessly and said, "Sister-in-law is so pitiful. You're so quiet and boring when you're around." Sigh, Jiyu Jingze frowned. "Just mind your own business." Jiyu Jingyan snorted and left. Lin Che didn't disturb Mu Wanqing. He knew that although Mu Wanqing usually looked like she had nothing to do, she was in charge of a large family. She must be very busy. Lin Che just looked around the courtyard, leaning against the wall to water the plants and tidying up the things on the side. Seeing that Lin Che was actually cleaning up the weeds, the servant hurriedly walked over and said, "Young madam, please put it down." "Let me do it." "Why are you still doing such manual work?" Lin Che said with a smile, "I don't have anything to do. I saw that these flowers look good, so I came here to do some." The helper smiled and looked at Lin Che. "Young madam, if second young master were to see this, he would definitely scold us. Second young master treats young madam so well, he would definitely feel sorry for young madam doing these things." Lin Che said speechlessly, "What's there to feel sorry for? It's not like it's a big deal. Young madam, you are such a good person. No wonder second young master and madam like you so much." When Lin Che heard this, she smiled embarrassedly. Her cheeks flushed and she pulled up her hair. She felt that it was a very happy thing to be liked. Although she always felt that she did not do anything, perhaps the people in her family really did not do anything. So when she did something, the servants would feel grateful. Actually, to her, it was just a small matter. When she was in the Lin family, she was like these servants. She also had to do housework and other things. She did not see that behind her. Lu Chuxia had long seen this scene. Lu Chuxia had been secretly observing Lin Che. She had underestimated Lin Che, so she had always been disdainful to see what Lin Che looked like. Now that she saw him, she felt that his beauty might be a big obstacle to her. However, she was still the daughter of a commoner. She looked so ordinary. Lu Chuxia snorted and walked over step by step. When Lin Che turned around, he saw Lu Chuxia walking over with an arrogant face. She stood there and stopped. Lu Chuxia stared at Lin Che and looked him up and down without hesitation. I was wondering why everyone had such a good impression of you. Lin Che smiled. What do you mean, Miss Lu? Lu Chuxia said, I was still wondering how you managed to make Jiyu Jingze give up on Mo Hualing. Lin Che frowned. He clearly felt that Lu Chuxia was full of hostility. Lu Chuxia said, now I understand. So you are a little smart, using this kind of lowly method to win people over. Lin Che's expression completely fell. He looked at Lu Chuxia and sneered. Miss Lu, what do you mean by that? Lu Chuxia said, weren't you trying to win people over just now? Lin Che laughed. Sorry, winning people over? I don't need it yet. You don't need it. Of course, it's necessary to make these servants think you're good and stand on your side. However, we don't bother to use these little tricks. That's right. You don't have any family background, and you can't bring any benefits to the Jiyu family. You'll only be a burden to Jiyu Jingze. If you don't use some little tricks to make others praise you, you'll really have nothing to say. Unfortunately, these tricks won't last long. After a long time, the servants will get used to it and won't think you're special anymore. However, we won't do these things normally, so they will think you're special. You should know that these little tricks won't last long. Lin Che looked at Lu Chuxia speechlessly. Miss Lu, your imagination is really rich. Unfortunately, you think too much. I really don't need to use so-called tricks. Really? Forget it. I know you won't admit it no matter what, Lin Che said. I really don't need it. No matter what you think, I'm the young mistress of this family. I'm Jiyu Jingze's wife. No matter what I do, they can only say good things about me. Because they know who the future mistress of this family is. Lu Chuxia was stunned. Lin Che snorted and brushed past Lu Chuxia. It seems that you don't know Jiyu Jingze very well. Otherwise, you wouldn't say such things. Lu Chuxia suddenly panicked. But she gloomily stared in the direction that Lin Che left. Good, she had underestimated this Lin Che. That's right, if she didn't have some tricks up her sleeve, how could the Jiyu family acknowledge her position? It seemed that she couldn't underestimate Lin Che in the future. In her future, it seemed that this Lin Che was also worthy of being an opponent. Lin Che left the backyard and stopped when he reached the front of the house. Lin Che thought that Lu Chuxia didn't understand Jiyu Jingze at all. Otherwise, she wouldn't have said that just now. Did she really think that she married Jiyu Jingze through some underhanded means? Actually, that wasn't the case. She was able to marry Jiyu Jingze because of his illness. Chapter 308. Lin Che thought that she didn't know about Jiyu Jingze's illness at all. Lin Che took a deep breath. She could be touched by Jiyu Jingze and not get sick. This was better than any other method. Because of this, she didn't have to worry about her position being replaced by someone else as long as Jiyu Jingze's illness didn't progress. Unless Jiyu Jingze could touch someone else one day, Lu Chuxia was very angry. She felt like she was insulted by a small celebrity. But when she thought of Jiyu Jingze, she couldn't bear to give up. However, she couldn't do anything in the Jiyu family with Lin Che around, so she went back first. Jiyu Jingyan sent Lu Chuxia off. Seeing that Lu Chuxia was unhappy, she smiled and said, "All right, you have to be there on my wedding day." Of course. How can I not attend my brother's wedding? After Jiyu Jingze left his grandfather's place, he brought Lin Che back to the Jiyu family home. In the car, Lin Che looked out the window without saying a word. Jiyu Jingze seemed to notice that Lin Che was different. He said to Lin Che, "What's wrong with you? You keep spacing out." Lin Che came back to his senses and looked at Jiyu Jingze. Jiyu Jingze, who was coveted by so many people, became her husband. Many people must think that she was climbing up the social ladder. In their eyes, they must be sure that their marriage wouldn't last long. Lin Che played with his hair and smiled. "Nothing. I just wanted to say that Jingyan's wedding is coming soon. I don't know what gift to give her." Jiyu Jingze said, "Forget it. There's nothing to give her. She doesn't lack anything. Just give her some cards as a congratulatory gift." "Ah, that's too stingy." "Of course. Her family gave her a lot of dowry when she gets married. She owns 2 investment companies, 3 resorts, and a coal mine. They're all hers. Why would they spend money on her? Wow, so much dowry. Lin Che said speechlessly. Whoever marries her is really lucky. That's right. That kid from the Liu family is really lucky. But the Liu family might not give him less than we do. If you rich people get married, you can shake the economic circle, right? Lin Che looked up and said. Jiyu Jingzi said, not necessarily, but the stock market will definitely be turbulent for a few days. Whether it's good or bad is still unknown. No wonder people say that if the Jiyu family stomps their feet, the whole of country C will tremble. Then, will there be a lot of media going to your marriage? Although only a few media outlets are allowed in, I'm sure there will be a lot of people waiting outside. Hearing this, Lin Che hurriedly said, then wouldn't it be bad if I went over? What if I get photographed? It's okay. The media shouldn't be able to enter the center. You can hide there. There will be a lot of people that day anyway. No one will notice us if we go inside. Fine, no one will find me no matter where I go. If you disappear, you will definitely be found. What? Because? Lin Che thought it was because he was Jiyu Jingzi. Wherever he went, he would be the center of attention. Everyone's eyes would follow him. Because you're my brother. You're my family. Of course, everyone will pay attention to you. Jiyu Jingzi raised his eyebrows. Then I'll go to the back, where they can't see. Isn't that better? All right, rich people, willful people, don't care what others think of them. Lin Che rested for a while and then returned to the set to continue filming. When Lin Che arrived, Yang Lingxin and Yu Minmin went to pick him up. When they arrived at the set, they saw that everyone was still busy. Because Lin Che was back, the director arranged for the filming to be rearranged. Yang Lingxin said, after you left, everyone said that Jiyu Jingyu was really nice to you. He asked for leave just like that. He didn't make things difficult for you at all. Lin Che said, so what? Asking for leave? People always have urgent matters to attend to. Can't they ask for leave? Yu Minmin said, it's not that you can't ask for leave. It's just that no one dares to ask for leave for Jiyu Jingyu's show. After all, Jiyu Jingyu has a bad temper and he's such a big shot. It's normal for him to replace you because he's not happy with you. But you don't have to worry. After all, you're so close to Jiyu Jingyu. Why would he lose his temper with you? Yang Lingxin also said, that's right, that's right. I heard from them that no matter who you are, once you take on Jiyu Jingyu's show, you have to do your best for him. Don't say anything like I have a show, I'm an ambassador, I have an event halfway through. If you anger Jiyu Jingyu, no matter who you are, he will replace you. That's why everyone said that Jiyu Jingyu treats Sister Che really well. So there was such a saying. Lin Che said embarrassedly, I'm sorry. They didn't make things difficult for you, did they? I was just thinking about it. I didn't think too much about it. Of course not. Jiyu Jingyu only asked when you were coming back. He didn't make things difficult for you at all, Yu Minmin said. Very soon, the few of them entered. Xin Xiaoyuan was drinking mineral water inside. When she saw them, she harumphed and said, our big shot female lead is finally back. The few of them couldn't be bothered with her and went straight inside. Xin Xiaoyuan spat on the outside. I wonder how she managed to sleep with Jiyu Jingyu. She's so arrogant. All right, Sister Xiaoyuan, don't be angry. She really thinks she's a big shot. Can't she see that she's only been popular for a few days? Jiyu Jingyu quickly heard that Lin Che was back. When he came in, he saw Xin Xiaoyuan sitting there. Xin Xiaoyuan quickly got up to greet him and said, Jingyu. Jiyu Jingyu looked at Xin Xiaoyuan and nodded with a sullen face. Then, he went straight inside. Xin Xiaoyuan saw that he hurriedly went to look for Lin Che, but didn't even bother to be polite to her. She was so angry that she gripped the mineral water bottle. How could this Lin Che be so attractive that all these men were trying their best to please her? Mitch, Jiyu Jingyu said as soon as he came in, you're finally willing to come back. I thought you ran away at the last minute. Lin Che said, how could that be? How could I be willing to give up a movie starring Jiyu Jingyu? However, she still looked at Jiyu Jingyu gratefully. Thank you for giving me so many days of leave. It's only been 6 days since you came back. It hasn't been that long. Who doesn't have something to do? How is it? Have you settled everything? Jiyu Jingyu said generously, causing the staff behind him to be dumbfounded. Since when was Jiyu Jingyu so easy to talk to? Lin Che said, yeah, it's basically settled. There's nothing else. It's just that. I'm going out of town to help my grandmother with her family matters. Is that so? That's good. Do your best in filming. Yeah. Thank you, Jiyu Jingyu. If you really want to thank me, you should give me a gift. You're really something. All you say is that, but you don't do anything. Give you a gift. Lin Che said, speechless. What should I give you? That depends on your feelings for me. Asking me what to give you is no different from asking me for it. Idiot, think about it yourself. Jiyu Jingyu directly hit her. Aya, I know. Just give me a gift. Why did you hit me? Chapter 309. Everyone looked at the two of them and couldn't help but feel that there was something fishy going on. Yu Minmin didn't think there was anything wrong with Lin Che. She was very close to many people and was a rather silly person. However, Jiyu Jingyu was indeed very good to her. When they went out, everyone was still discussing. Is there really nothing going on between Jiyu Jingyu and Lin Che? Of course there's nothing going on. Didn't they deny it and say that they're just friends? But I think Jiyu Jingyu treats her very well. The way they talk is also very familiar. I've never seen Jiyu Jingyu smile at anyone before. Now that she saw Lin Che come back, she immediately ran over to look for him. Who knows? But they didn't act very intimately. I saw that they sat together and spoke to each other from far away. It shouldn't be considered flirtatious. Maybe they're really friends. They're friends now, but that's because they're in front of others. Who knows if they'll do something after filming? Hey. Xin Xiaoyuan gritted her teeth as she listened from behind. She was a big shot who had come to participate in Jiyu Jingyu's movie. She didn't expect that she would be defeated by that little girl in seconds. Now everyone was talking about her and they didn't care about her at all. The next day, the first batch of posters for the movie were about to be released. They showed Lin Che the poster. Lin Che looked at it and felt that it was very good. It would definitely not be bad if it was made by Jiyu Jingyu. Lin Che was in the middle. He looked very beautiful. His long hair fluttered in the wind and he looked very beautiful and heroic. However, outside, Xin Xiaoyuan was making a fuss. The reason was that her name was placed behind Lin Che's on the poster. Xin Xiaoyuan went straight to the director and said, "After all, I entered the industry so many years earlier than Lin Che, and I've won more awards than the movies he's acted in. You actually want me to be ranked behind him? Where do you think I'll put my face?" The director said, It's just a matter of position. Besides, aren't you two lined up together? She can't be ranked ahead of me. No matter what, I, Xin Xiaoyuan, have been popular for so many years. You know my appeal, right? Do you know how much I have to contribute to the box office for this movie? You actually want her to be ranked ahead of me? How could I agree? The director was also very depressed. Seeing that Xin Xiaoyuan was going crazy, he could only say, "Look, we've already made it. Why don't we just make do with it?" "Who's going to make do with you?" "I'll just change the name and location." "You can just change it. If it doesn't work, I'll give you money to change it." Lin Che, Yang Lingxin, and Yu Minmin watched from behind. Looking at this, the director was put in a difficult position. Xin Xiaoyuan snorted. When she turned around and saw Lin Che, she gritted her teeth even more. "What are you looking at, Lin Che? Who doesn't know how you got close to others to get this role? Do you really think that you can climb over my head just because you got this role? Let me tell you, my part in the plot is about the same as yours." Lin Che looked at her and said, "Sister Xiaoyuan, it's just a name. It doesn't matter if it comes first or later. When Xin Xiaoyuan heard this, she immediately said, "Okay, that's what you said. If you don't care, you can go to the back." Lin Che said, "I'm only in charge of the acting part. As for the rest, I'll listen to everyone's arrangements." "Ha, you make it sound so nice, but you pretend to know how to behave. On the surface, you say that you don't care, but behind my back, you play dirty tricks. Let me tell you, I've been in this industry for so many years. Don't think that I don't know your little tricks." Lin Che was speechless. He didn't know what to say. The director was also very helpless. He didn't want to offend Xin Xiaoyuan. Xin Xiaoyuan looked at Jiyu Jingyu in front of her and was very angry for a moment. However, she couldn't fight against Jiyu Jingyu. This was something she knew very well. Therefore, even if she was angry, she still held it in and didn't move forward. She could only hate that the person she met was Jiyu Jingyu, and Jiyu Jingyu was on Lin Che's side. Chapter 310. She said, "Then, forget it. I'll give Jingyu some face. I'll listen to Jingyu on this matter." Jiyu Jingyu snorted lightly and said, "All right then, director, the poster is decided. Release it." The director heard this and nodded quickly. "Yes, yes, yes." Looking at Jiyu Jingyu's imposing manner, he thought to himself, as expected of Jiyu Jingyu. He's not afraid of anyone. It saves me a lot of trouble. Xin Xiaoyuan finally glared at Lin Che angrily and quickly left with her people. Even though she left in a very imposing manner, she had just been taught a lesson by Jiyu Jingyu. At this moment, she looked like she was running away with her tail between her legs. Seeing him leave, everyone looked at Jiyu Jingyu with even more reverence. One by one, they also slowly dispersed. Lin Che finally understood what they were talking about. Jiyu Jingyu's temper wasn't very good, and he wasn't afraid of any actor. However, he had never acted like this in front of him. However, Lin Che also felt that she had always been quite obedient. After all, she was a newcomer and listened to everything. She had never been like Xin Xiaoyuan, who acted like a big shot, so she had never seen this side of Jiyu Jingyu. Seeing that everyone had dispersed, Jiyu Jingyu said to Lin Che, "Look at you. You still want to give the title of the first female lead to someone else." Lin Che said, "I just don't want to cause any trouble. Besides, I'm not stupid. Even if the audience sees her name in front, they won't think that she'll be the one with your character in the end." Yu Minmin said from behind, "Don't worry, Mr. Jiyu. I won't give this position to her so easily. I'm just thinking that if she succeeds today, there will be public opinion tomorrow. In the end, I won't let my artist suffer such a loss." Jiyu Jingyu sighed and said to Lin Che, "Remember, in the future, you're my person. With me protecting you, you don't have to give her so much face. Do you hear me?" "Yes, yes, yes. I understand." Lin Che looked at Jiyu Jingyu. He knew that he was doing this for his own good. Jiyu Jingyu left quickly. Yang Lingxin watched this scene from behind and didn't even dare to breathe. She finally walked over and said, "Sister Che, it's really good that Jiyu Jingyu helped you like this. Let's see who dares to bully Sister Che in the future." Lin Che smiled. He thought about how Jiyu Jingyu was still asking her for a present. He wasn't afraid of the public's wrath and helped her like this. This made her feel that she needed to thank him. Thus, on the way there, she began to think about what she should buy for him. When she got home, she thought about it and realized that there was nothing to buy. She might as well buy him a watch. Anyway, successful people like him always wore watches. Lin Che didn't know much, so he asked Yu Minmin to buy it. Yu Minmin directly bought one. Her thinking was very simple. Jiyu Jingyu didn't have anything, so she didn't care what the gift was. What she wanted was the thought. So, it didn't matter what the gift was. Lin Che received the watch from Yu Minmin. He looked at it in the bedroom and found that the watch looked good. It wasn't cheap either. After looking at it, he put it on the table. Jiyu Jingze was very busy these few days. On one hand, Jiyu Jingyan's wedding was going to be a big event, so he had a lot of things to take care of. On the other hand, he had to delay his work for a few days. When he came back, he took off his coat and asked the servant where Madam was. The servant said, "Madam is probably very tired from filming these days. She went to bed when she came back." Hearing this, Jiyu Jingze nodded and didn't disturb her. He took a shower in the bathroom outside before entering the bedroom. Seeing that Lin Che was indeed sleeping soundly, he walked over and sat there with a smile. Then, he saw an exquisite box on the dressing table. He paused for a moment and reached out to open the box. In the beginning, it was Xin Xiaoyuan who directed and acted all by herself, but now it was all pushed to her. This feeling was really complicated. On the set, after Lin Che entered, he discussed the afternoon's itinerary with Yu Minmin. Opposite him, Xin Xiaoyuan's people were also coming out in a grandiose manner. Chapter 312. She was just about to leave after filming a night scene. When the surrounding people saw this, they also looked over in an instant. Looking at these people, they couldn't help but think that they wouldn't fight, would they? Lin Che just glanced over there and continued to discuss something else with Yu Minmin next to him. On the other side, Xin Xiaoyuan glanced over and said to her assistant, I was wondering how she became famous so quickly. So it turns out that she's a sugar daddy. Sigh, young people nowadays. That's right. They're not like our sister Xiaoyuan, who relied on her ability to become famous. They're just different. Wherever they go, they're respected and not despised. Forget it. She's reaping what she sowed anyway. It's not that she doesn't dare to admit it now. Look, she's not making a sound at all. Is this a tacit agreement or is she afraid to say anything? Seriously, where did that tough attitude from before go? Lin Che bit his lip. Yu Minmin held Lin Che's arm and went in with her. She said indifferently, "Forget it, Lin Che. They're just a bunch of clowns. They can't beat them in terms of ability, so they like to use unorthodox methods. Forget it, we have to be considerate of these old ladies and let them accept this fact. After all, they still need some time." Yu Minmin, who are you calling old? Xin Xiaoyuan turned her head, her face purple with anger. Yu Minmin and the others stopped. She looked back at Xin Xiaoyuan and said, "Hey, Sister Xiaoyuan, I didn't see you here just now. I was talking to Lin Che about the current entertainment news. I was talking about some old ladies. Aren't they going to nightclubs now? They're very pitiful. Why, Sister Xiaoyuan, don't you think I'm talking about you?" When the people around them heard this, they all faintly laughed. Xin Xiaoyuan snorted coldly, stepped over the two people, and walked out. "Lin Che, just you wait." Lin Che walked in with Yu Minmin and ignored Xin Xiaoyuan. Lin Che could see that Jiyu Jingyu had really put on the wristwatch. Before putting on makeup, he saw Lin Che and even waved it for him. Yu Minmin looked on in shock. She nudged Lin Che and said, Jiyu Jingyu seems to be. Are you sure he's not interested in you? Forget it. I've already told him that I'm married. It's only because he doesn't have a good relationship with his family that he doesn't know that I'm married to the Jiyu family. Oh, that's true. He knows that you're married, but he still doesn't leave you. Get lost, Sister Yu. Yang Lingxin watched from the back, feeling a little speechless. She leaned against the wall and looked at her phone. It was the Tiebar forum. There were many people scolding Lin Che. She silently looked at her phone with an undetectable hint of emotion on her lips. The curses about Lin Che continued. In the company, Jiyu Jingze looked at himself in the photo. He didn't dare to get closer, so the photo was taken at a distance. Qin Hao said, "The internet is saying that Madam is a kept woman." Jiu Jing's expression changed as he scanned through the curses. Qin Hao said, "What do you think we should do now? Did you find out who did it? It's an actress who's been at odds with Madam recently. Rumor has it that she was Li Qianhong's mistress in his early years. She's been promoted for a few years and finally became popular. She's now filming the same movie as Madam and they're both in Third Young Master's production team." Jiu Jingze paused and waved his hand to dismiss them. After Xin Xiaoyuan went out, she was so angry that her face turned purple because of Yu Minmin's words. She said to her assistant, "Go and hire more internet water army to scold this damn Lin Che and her manager, Yu Minmin. Say that Yu Minmin slept with the company's CEO. I remember that her family isn't good either. She has a gambling addict for a father. Chen-ph, anyway, scold her to death." The next day, Lin Che and Yu Minmin were once again scolded in the headlines. Although anyone with a discerning eye could tell that it was the internet water army, it was still annoying to see. Especially this time, Yu Minmin was also scolded. They said that Yu Minmin looked down on Lin Che and was a rubbish manager. It was obvious that they were trying to sow discord. When Lin Che saw this, he said gloomily, "This Xin Xiaoyuan is too much. It was fine to scold her, but to scold the people around her as well. Did Xin Xiaoyuan really think that he wouldn't dare to do anything to her?" Yu Minmin tugged at Lin Che. "Forget it. Let her say what she wants. We'll ignore it. It'll be over in a few days." Lin Che said, "She's too arrogant. Does she really think that I'm afraid of her just because I'm ignoring her?" Yu Minmin said, "It's not good to blow things up. It's more important to keep your marriage under wraps. It doesn't matter if I get scolded. Anyway, a manager's job is to attract hatred. If I get scolded, it'll be good if you get scolded less." Lin Che gritted his teeth. "Okay, I won't do anything to her. But I have to at least warn her. Otherwise, she'll really think that I don't dare to do anything to her. She'll only get more and more arrogant." As Lin Che said this, he walked straight out. Yu Minmin thought that there was no harm in warning him, so she followed him. Xin Xiaoyuan was at the company. They didn't have many scenes on set these 2 days, so Lin Che found an opportunity to go back to the company to deal with other matters. Outside the company, Xin Xiaoyuan's team was about to leave. Lin Che walked over quickly and called out from afar, "Xin Xiaoyuan." Although she was a senior, she was actually not much older than Lin Che. She had entered the industry a few years earlier and had become famous earlier. However, everyone called her sister Xiaoyuan. It was also the industry standard. They felt that seniors should be respected. At this moment, hearing Lin Che call her name directly, Xin Xiaoyuan frowned. She turned around and sneered, "Didn't your mother teach you etiquette? You called my name? Who do you think you are? How dare you call me by my name? My mother didn't teach me etiquette, but she did teach me that if I get bitten by a dog, I shouldn't bite back, lest I get sick. That's why I've been ignoring you these few days, lest I get infected. But don't think that I'm condoning you by ignoring you. That's right, I have my own love life, and I also have my own life. I don't want these things to be exposed in front of others, but it's not like you're saying that you're a kept woman. Heh, just how monotonous is your life? Holding hands with someone and going shopping is considered a kept woman. Working hard when your family isn't doing well is considered a conspiracy. How much have you suffered for you to be so depressed and so extreme?" Xin Xiaoyuan's face was crooked from his words. "Lin Che, how dare you talk to me like this?